All right, well, welcome to the digital storytelling training that we're going to be going through today. My name is Ronnie Holder-Diefenbach, and I'm with the Economic Alliance. And we are happy to be able to host Roxanne Best, who is here today to do the training. And this is part of an actual 5-series training. And so we hope that you can join us for our follow-up trainings as well. I'd like to introduce Roxanne and turn it over to her now. So thank you for being here today and thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you, Ronnie. I'm so happy to be here to share about digital storytelling. My name is Roxanne Best, and I am a trainer for many organizations. And I love teaching about social media and digital storytelling. My background is photography as well as culinary arts. And what I discovered when I was in culinary arts school was I was way better at telling the story of the food through imagery and video than I was at actually cleaning up my messes after I prepared. So I transitioned from culinary arts into focusing more on photos and video. And before I was in culinary arts school, I actually started as an underwater videographer and photographer when I taught scuba diving in the Turks and Caicos Islands and also in Hawaii. And that was where I got to tell stories without any words. So telling the story of the dive experience that we were on, from getting on the boat to getting in the water, and then the whole experience, so that folks that participated in that activity could take that interpretation of the story that I told through photos and video, and they would be able to purchase that and take it home to share with their friends and family, which we all know how exciting those family vacation slideshows and videos are. So I felt really honored that I got to participate in helping others to entertain their friends and family after their vacations. But digital storytelling is everywhere. And we can't turn on the TV, we can't turn on our phones or get on social media without some sort of digital storytelling experience. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. There's going to be a lot of activities. So what we want to, sorry. No, that's okay. It might be better to just go into present mode. Okay. It's up, it's behind the faces. Present, it's under the bar. There. And then you can just, then you're able to just click through the slides. So digital storytelling is a modern method of capturing life through TikToks, YouTube videos, podcasts, and any format that requires us to tell a story online. Back when I was a videographer and for underwater, we would give VCR tapes, or then it evolved into DVDs. But now with the ability for us to take things online, that was where digital storytelling became available to everybody, because there wasn't any special equipment required. In order for me to produce the VHS tapes and the DVDs, I had to have special equipment and special editing programs in order to make that happen and make it shareable. And it could only be shared if somebody put it into a device that then projected it onto a screen somehow. Now we can just log in for, like, with what we're presenting here, this could be a form of digital storytelling. And this is how we can both incorporate telling stories through our businesses. And when we are an online business and we're creating space and connecting with people via the internet, it's not as easy to build that emotional connection, that trust factor. So it becomes really important for us to tell stories through our social media platforms, whatever platform you choose, to tell your story, to tell your organization story, to tell your personal story, because that is how people develop a connection, since we aren't as much in person as we used to be. There was a time when you had to just walk into someone's store and decide whether or not you wanted to buy from that store based on the appearance and customer service. Now we go to someone's website or their social media platform, or we don't even go there. That story just happens across our feed if we're scrolling Instagram or TikToks. And then we start to look and decide whether or not we want to get to know that business even more, which is where the importance of digital storytelling comes into play. And it's also why I decided to make this the first aspect of the series. Because if we don't know the foundations on telling the stories, and we're going to work on one story, and then this is a formula you'll be able to translate into multiple stories for your business, either big stories or smaller stories telling the creation story, if you will, behind products or services that you offer, so that folks that visit you on your website or social media platforms, they can get to know you a little bit better through your storytelling. So the guide that we're showing on screen right now is meant to help be a guide. So you'll be able to access this guide, and we're going to send out a link so you have a PDF format of this, so you'll be able to repeat this process over and over again. So one of the questions I get asked all the time is, as a business owner, or as a storyteller, why do I want to get my story out there? You don't have to, but if you want people to buy your product or service, you, in some way, shape, or form, people have to develop a relationship with you. Whether you're going to events and you're a vendor and you're at a booth and customers walk up to you and you say, "Hi, how are you? My name is," and you tell your story that way, or they go to your website or to your social media platforms and they're able to see your story through digital media. So why put stories out there? One, because it busts myths and changes the game on what people think is possible. It could spark someone else to try something new or overcome a challenge. And it's a power move for you, turning your experiences into something epic. Going digital lets you broadcast your life lessons and wins to a wider audience, making your mark in the online universe. So we think it's too tech heavy is one of the other obstacles that I often find people are saying, "Well, I can't do this. I don't understand how to create a story. I don't have really fancy cameras or really nice editing programs." And I'm here in this program to debunk that to a certain extent. So inside this workbook or this guide, what you're going to find are tips on choosing your adventure. So this is where we're going to start to craft your message and start to lay out the story that you want to tell. No matter if it's a little story like, I'm about to go teach a workshop for Economic Alliance. I was actually on my way here, I was like, oh, I could tell the whole story of, getting up, getting ready, interaction with what it's like to be an entrepreneur who facilitates workshops and speaking events. And getting here, getting my coffee, feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm late, and all the phone calls that come in. That was a whole story that I could have told on the way here, and I could have created a video, but I didn't because I was really focused on getting coffee this morning. So we're also going to provide in this guide some planning tools that are going to help take your project from just a daydream to reality. So I'm going to hopefully debunk the idea that I don't have the right equipment or the technology. And then we're going to give also guidance on advice for capturing awesome video content with just your phone, which I think is the key element to any business owner, is understanding what is the lowest access point to do this activity. Oftentimes we think, oh, I have to have all this fancy equipment, all these beautiful microphones and these backdrops, and I have to have a camera crew and someone to edit, and that's a huge expense, which most of us as entrepreneurs, we don't have, especially when we're just getting started. And so we have to understand, what equipment do I have on hand right now? What do I have available to me? And 9.999 times out of 10, we all have a device known as our smartphone. And so we can learn how to leverage this tool, which is another one of the workshops that are in this series, is using your smartphone to capture amazing images and video for your social media content. It's basically a 101 class. And that's where we'll go deeper into the photography aspect. But today we're going to give a quick overview on how to leverage those tools. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. The number one rule in any process as an entrepreneur, and this is speaking from experience, is when our minds and our ideas start to manifest as ideas. And those ideas can be like a hamster on a hamster wheel, and we're just going and going and going with those same ideas. And the more that we let ourselves run on the hamster wheel, the more complicated the ideas become. And so I heard this once, I've heard it interpreted a couple of different ways, is KISS, keep it super simple. So no matter what we're doing, find the simplest approach and then build in complication after you're able to execute the simple process. I've heard it keep it stupid simple. I've heard it keep it simple stupid. I like keep it super simple because it's a little more positive, but you know, whatever process we're embarking on, and again, speaking from experience, from thinking that I had to have all these complicated systems and processes that just became overwhelming and started to limit my ability to move forward with ideas. Now that I've stepped back and I'm taking a more simple approach to things, including content creation, including working with other clients, it has transformed the way that I am able to navigate as an entrepreneur. So we can go over to the next slide. So digital storytelling. So many people are like, oh, I'm not a storyteller. I'm not this, I'm not that. We're going to erase that from our brains. Where if you post on social media at all, images, videos, even if it's your family, even if it's your dog, those are digital stories. You're telling a story online. So we all do it. No matter if you're a total newbie to telling stories or you don't feel tech savvy, everyone can learn how to be a good digital storyteller. So if we are a business owner and we have a beautiful puppy that we just want to share all about our puppy. Now, is it good digital storytelling when we're trying to educate people about our business if all we're posting is our puppy pictures? Because I'll be honest, when I post something and I get a whole bunch of comments and likes and engagement, it makes me feel really good, but it does never ever translate into paying clients. So, you know, we have to be good digital storytellers. We have to be able to tell the story of our business, regardless of the number of engagements, the number of likes. The better that we become at digital storytelling, that engagement, those likes, that interaction will start to come with time. So whether you're sharing how you ascend a tough challenge or found light at the end of a dark tunnel, your story has the power to change minds, hearts, and maybe even lives. So, you know, we can take our idea as an entrepreneur, and then just like when we started our business, there are steps involved. We develop an idea, we see a need in our community. When we're a business owner, we run an organization, we see a need, we develop the idea. Hey, there's a need for more people to have a deeper understanding of the online space. More entrepreneurs need to understand how to leverage digital media. So let's create a series. So then we develop a plan. You know, we reach out to potential trainers or people that have a background that might be able to facilitate this opportunity. Then we start to gather our resources. Like, what do we have available to create this experience for our community, for our clients? And then we start to put it all together and share it. Those are the basic steps to developing any idea, developing a business, developing a plan that we can execute. We have to first have the idea, and we can't just say, oh, I have an idea. We actually have to take the steps to develop the idea. And that's where we start to do research to see if there's even a need, to see if this idea is going to have traction. And that requires us to have an understanding of what our ideal customers, who they are, you know, who's buying from us, who's our target audience, if you will. And then we start to develop the plan of how we're going to execute this story, this idea that's going to resonate with my ideal customer, with the folks that I want to buy from me or to engage with my content. And then when we gather the resources, then we start to, you know, say, okay, this is the camera I have available. I don't have a microphone, so I might have to take an extra step to get really good sound quality, or maybe I don't even need sound because I'm going to use music instead, and I'm just going to type text over the video that I'm recorded or the images. And, you know, then we decide how we're going to put all the things, the images, the videos, whatever it is that we're collecting, the words, the connection to our customers, how we're going to put it all together, and then where are we going to share it. So we're just going to break these down as we're moving through. So we're going to break down each step even more granular. And so let's go ahead and go to the next. Perfect. So step one, we're going to also incorporate like some breakout time so you can actually work through an idea. So everyone here right now has an idea about something that we would like to tell the story of. It could be getting ready to come and teach this workshop today. I could tell that story and showing up and feeling, you know, all the things, and how you overcome any obstacles that got in the way of you getting to where you need to go. A story could be, I'm about to launch a new product and I want people to connect with it and feel like they need it in their lives. So we're going to start telling the story of that. So first you have to come up with the idea. What's the story that you want to tell? Maybe you want to just entertain people. Maybe you want to, you know, bring some joy to the world and create a funny video or a funny meme or a funny story that will get people to laugh. You know, it doesn't have to be super complicated like deep dive marketing. It just has to have, when we get into the marketing workshop, we'll dive deeper into like planning out, you know, identifying, you know, your messaging and figuring out the pillars that you're going to use in your marketing strategy online. But just to give you a little bit of a hint, so you want to have at least 4 pillars. They're always drawn from when you're creating content. And this really helps to speak to your digital storytelling as well. Because if I'll use my business as an example. I do a few different things. I do workshops and coaching. I'm also a yoga instructor, and I'm also on the side a photographer. So that's 3 things. There's probably more, but we'll stick with that. But right now online, I'm really trying to start to push my yoga coaching programs. And so instead of posting pictures that don't relate to yoga and coaching, started to put more yoga videos out with the messaging that's behind the coaching program. So when we're trying to push different topics, we have to make sure that it aligns with what we're working on doing. So we think about like Instagram or TikTok or even a YouTube channel. And if you go to that channel and you see some picture, let's say Instagram, you go to Instagram and then one day somebody has videos of them going on a hike. And so you're like, oh, this must be a person who talks about hiking all the time. Oh no, now they're talking about a recipe that they made. And I'm basically describing myself right now. Oh, now they're talking about yoga. Oh, now they're talking about their coaching program. And so you're going all over the place. It creates confusion in the mind. And then maybe we don't go back to that person's profile anymore. However, if we go to someone's profile and let's say they're a performing artist, and every single video is either them singing or performing or dancing, and it's very entertaining and it creates connection, and you know what to expect when you get there, because psychologically as humans, we like to go in spaces where we know what to expect. And whenever we get a surprise, it creates an uneasiness. And if that's your intention, to every once in a while sprinkle in a little bit of that uneasiness, because then you can say, And this is how you address that uneasiness or whatever. But psychologically, we want consistency. Someone wants to come to your profile and know what they're going to experience there. So when we're coming up with our ideas, we want to base it on 4 pillars. Am I going to educate? Am I going to entertain? Am I going to inform? Or am I going to try to sell something? There's other pillars that you can use, but those are just a basic 4 that you could think of using. So then you want to start brainstorming your ideas. Okay, if I want to entertain someone, what are some ideas that I can post or create a story around and that relates to my product, but it's entertaining? If I want to educate people, maybe I'm not saying directly my product solves this education at the end by my product, because that's also an icky feeling. Like nobody likes the whole like, wow, this was great, I love this, and now they want me to buy from them on every time they give education, which we want to sprinkle that in there, but not every single time, because we're building that no like trust factor. So, you know, then we can brainstorm ideas on how can I educate about what I offer. And education doesn't have to be like a textbook of knowledge. It could just be something as simple as if you make homemade soaps, let's say, and you sell them at the farmer's market. And education could be farmers markets are starting again as spring is approaching. And here's some of the farmers markets that are available in your area to attend. That's education. And then people are like, oh, wow, that's fantastic. I love going to farmers markets. And then they might go click on your profile and say, oh, wow, this person is going to be at those farmers markets and they sell soaps. And then there's a whole bunch of really cool videos of you making your soaps or you talking about the benefits of the ingredients that you use in your soaps. So this is how you start to build an overall story that's cohesive instead of broken and confusing, where you're still like getting people to come to your business to potentially buy from you, but you're also creating an education and a trust factor. So education, what we already said, entertainment, right? Education. The third one is inform. So maybe there's the inform isn't, I just threw that one in there. That's why I forgot. But inform could be informing like the farmer's market. That could be an inform post also. So those two could overlap to a certain extent, but informing people of, hey, I'm starting a new soap baking class series, and I'd love it if you shared it with your friends. If you're not interested, do you know somebody who might be? So you're informing, you're giving. So another way to inform is to let people know what's going on in your business. Like maybe you're running into some obstacles and you're behind on some orders, so you might take this opportunity to inform your fans that there's something, you know, we're back ordered and we're waiting on some things to arrive, and then all the shipments will be coming out. You know, that's a communication which you probably would have sent in an email as well, but then you're putting it out there on your social media platforms, letting people know that, hey man, we've got so many orders that we're running out of supplies. So if you want to order from us, you better hurry up and order. So that's a way to use inform as well. And then the final one, sales. Yes, we always have to find a way to tastefully weave in the sales aspect. And the sales could be attend this event. It could be buy my product or service. And how do we do that in a tasteful way? That could be posting that farmer's market schedule and saying, you know, in a different post, these are the farmers markets that I'll be attending and the dates and times. And so that's another way to sell. Or you could put a post that says, we're launching a new line of homemade soaps that are going to incorporate natural ingredients from the land that we live on. And that's a sales post which is gonna get people interested to look further at what you're offering. That could also fall into the inform and educate category, but you know, there's other categories like in the entertain category, there's subcategories. So you could have, you know, you're just bringing light and joy with a positive quote or a meme or something that's, you know, in line with your product or service, but it's also funny. So what is your idea? So the first thing you're gonna do is brainstorm your ideas. And you're gonna start write them out. Like I see the folks here in class right now have a notebook. My biggest tip for everybody who is starting this process is to find a singular place to capture your digital storytelling ideas. And I just happen to have a book with some ideas on it. So in that book, nothing else goes in except digital marketing ideas. Because speaking from experience, I have my ideas are spread over 20 different notebooks. So if you find one that is only for digital marketing or digital storytelling ideas, then you know every time you need to pull an idea together, you go to that notebook or that file on your computer. That's where all of those ideas live. And then you can start to mine the best ones that you actually feel like you can execute. So the first step, grab yourself a piece of paper, notebook, whatever that is for you. And a pen, obviously, because we need a pen. So and just start, no, not that one. I just didn't get it out. So we just start writing down our ideas. And when I work with clients, I'm like, we're gonna set a timer, and I say 15 minutes, and that seems like an eternity. Today we're not gonna go quite 15 minutes. We're gonna just do 5 minutes, just so you can experience what it's like to start to do what I call a brain dump. It's one of my most favorite activities. I do one every week. At the beginning of the week, I take 10 minutes and I sit down and I just think, what is everything that I need to get done? What are all the things that are floating around in my brain right now that are keeping me from taking action? And I set a timer, I shut off my phone, and I just sit down and I write everything down, even if it's I need to change the roll of toilet paper in the bathroom. Everything, all the things, it's literally a brain dump, because again, the hamster wheel of ideas lives in the brain. And if we don't get it down in a tangible place in the form of a list or even a voice memo, that alone makes it just magically starts to make things get complete. So write the ideas down, whatever it is. And I usually like to direct it to a certain extent. So in this case, if you are a business owner or you're launching a new product or service, what are some digital stories that you might tell that will relate to this new business, this new product or service, or whatever area that you feel like you are feeling called to tell a story about? And then you can write down everything, even if it's like, I've written down like, I've written supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and purple people eater and like random words to songs. And then all of us, and it feels ridiculous, but as we're doing that, the brain is starting to shift gears, and then it will start to get out of its way and allow the actual ideas to start to come through. So we're gonna take 5 minutes right now. It's 9:30 on my clock, and I'm gonna stop talking and grab your pen and paper, and we're just gonna write down what are some ideas. There's no right or wrong idea, just write it down. Okay, so that was only 5 minutes. If you're like, oh, the ideas are still flowing, you can tap back into that at any point. I love doing this first thing in the morning, before food, before any activities. I like to wake up super early before my kiddo gets up or any distractions start, grab a cup of coffee and just set a timer and sit down and just do a brain dump and just put everything on paper. And, this is, you can do a focused brain dump on a specific topic or just in general brain dump to get ideas or thoughts out of our minds and onto paper. Because then what we can do with this is we can start to look at what we've written down. Some of it might be nonsense or some of it might be nonsense that actually has potential to be an amazing idea or to be a different approach to telling a story about who we are, what our business is about, and what our products or services can deliver. And so brainstorming ideas as one way to start to develop our digital story idea. On the list, another way is to listen to others or read topics that are related to your industry, to your business, your product or service. Podcasters, audiobooks. I love YouTube channels that have education and long form videos that are teaching about a topic that I'm interested in. And just also making sure that you are going to somebody who's actually an expert in the field and not a pretend expert is also really important. And so you want to also take an opportunity to look at lists and photos, because this is going to help to inspire you to get other ideas going. I'm going to come back to our list here in a second. So, and this list that we've created is one of those lists that we can start to scan and start to think, okay, how might I represent this through a video or a photo? And depending on how our brains work, because all of our brains work differently, not everybody thinks in images and not everybody has the ability to see a blank room and visualize what that blank room can look like. Some of us have to start putting all the pieces together and be like, no, that doesn't work, and then rearrange. And no matter what your approach is, it isn't incorrect. The only time it's incorrect is if we don't do anything because we're thinking we're not doing it right and we don't get any results. So whatever your approach is, doing that. Like thinking about photos and being the kind of person who likes to put things together and then take away if I don't like it, is I will go on platforms like Pinterest, or I will go to Instagram. Those are probably the two most common, or I'll do a Google search and I'll look up images that relate to the topic that I want to talk about. And I'll just do a screenshot and I'll start to create like a little vision board or a storyboard, which we're going to have a storyboard later on, but this is where you can start to create the visual aspect of it as well. And then think about your own personal knowledge and experiences and your passions as an individual. Like depending on what your business is, the way maybe not all so personally invested in outcomes. If you make cogs in it for whatever, then maybe you're not so passionate about being a cog producer. But if you are someone who does coaching, or you're providing products or services that help others live better lives, you might be really emotionally connected and passionate about outcomes. So, this is where you can start to really shine through in your digital storytelling. And another aspect that I didn't include in here is whether or not you want to be the face of your stories, a character in your stories, or if you want it to be just arbitrary images, videos that don't have you in them at all. And then that's a personal choice, and there's no right or wrong. There are a ton of faceless social media accounts out there that are doing really, really well. It used to be, I remember when I first started teaching about social media, it was like, you've got to show your face. People want to know who you are. But now there's this whole trend where people are not showing their faces. They might be speaking, doing voiceovers, or you'll see their hands, or you'll see the products that they're creating, but you'll never see their face. So, and that's completely okay. But again, you have to decide. And it doesn't mean that you never ever show your face. I worked with an artist and she only ever showed her hands painting and the paintings that she was creating. Never saw her face, even when it was an online class, she wouldn't even turn her camera on during our Zoom classes. And she, you know, she's very self-conscious about the way she looked, and we talked about it. And this is where I was like in between, like this, yes, you need to show your face. No, you actually really don't need to. And we had a really cool discussion about it. And ultimately she was like, I think I'm okay just showing like this back over the shoulder view. So you can see the back of my profile and the back of my head and me painting, but maybe I don't need like full face videos. And she does really well. And so you don't always have to show your face. I'm just threw that in there as a little bonus extra story. Because sometimes people are like, I don't want to be on camera. I'm terrible on camera. And that's okay. But if you are if you are the business, if you are the personality of the business, how can you still be a part of it without maybe showing your face? Or they're called talking head videos. Those aren't necessarily like a requirement for social media content. If you're not one that wants to be like a news broadcaster and telling your story with the camera right in your face and all the lights and the mics and everything, that isn't required. But how can you still tell the story in another way that's as impactful and informative without that whole setup? And my friend, the artist, she did a great job. It actually created curiosity. Like when I first started following her, I started looking because we want to see a face. That's just human nature. We understand people better when we can look at your faces. And like right now, teaching on Zoom, I can't see everyone's faces, so I'm not really sure how you all are receiving the information. But I can look in the room here and I can see heads nodding. I can feel like the reactions to the things I'm saying. But when you don't get that in a whole bunch of videos online or photos, you start to scroll that person's profile to see, like, I want to see their face, which is what happened when I went to her profile and I fell in love with her art. I didn't care anymore if I saw her face or not. I just wanted to look at more of her art. So there's like this really different way of experiencing that same aspect of creating a story without your face. So the other thing is to ask friends, family, teachers, or coworkers your idea. What do you think of this idea? Now, I want to qualify this because I've made this mistake, is asking friends that have no idea what it's like to be an entrepreneur or to want to tell a story or push an agenda, if you will, to create knowledge and understanding about something that you're passionate about or you want to educate people about. So making sure that the people that we are asking are actually aligned with what vision we're trying to portray in our stories. So I got some really bad advice from folks who just didn't have a clue about being an entrepreneur and what it's like to be a single mom and an entrepreneur. Like that's a whole other category. And then there's the entrepreneurial space, and then folks that have like a 9-to-5 job. You know, that's a whole, there's two different mindsets that exist there. So making sure we're asking like the right people, but also it's good just to get feedback. Like, what do you think of this? Without ever explaining the story and then seeing what someone's response is without, you know, them knowing the backstory. So, and then coworkers, obviously, if you work in an organization and you're creating content, always getting feedback from your coworkers. Do you feel like this is aligned with our mission? Is this speak to our values? Is this where we want to go with this story? Is this appropriate to put out there to share with the world? And then once you have a few topics, ask yourself the following questions about each one. So this is where we go back to our list. So our list or the images or whatever way we've started to collect and document our ideas. Then we go back to that list and say, so what is my connection to this topic? So one of the things I put on my list, actually, do you guys mind sharing maybe something on your list, and we'll use, instead of using my examples all day long?
Mine's, most of my list is based around my horse business and like marketing more, because I would like to expand on the horses that I'm raising and like marketing them towards maturity goals, different things like that. So that's what most of my stuff is,
That's
like
awesome.
marketing more of my goals, and taking more videos of like what I'm doing with them to build their foundation to go to the rodeo.
Awesome. So what's one idea you have?
The main one was like doing more video, like making sure I have more documentation.
Awesome. Cool. So with that, what is your connection to this topic?
I've raised horses for a long time, and so I'm to the point now where I want to share my horses. What the breeding program that I started. It's small, but I want, like, I think that they're marketable horses. They're gonna be great.
Fantastic. But why does that matter to you? Fast horses.
Yeah.
Why do you like fast horses?
That's the wind.
What are
Barrel horse.
barrels? Okay. What is it about barrel racing that is so exciting to you, or you're so passionate about?
I think because I've done it for so long and I've had a lot of success barrel racing. And I've seen a lot of people that would love to have that success, or that maybe they don't have the funds to go buy something so if I could show, or say, this is how I got it, this is the steps I've taken to build a horse from the ground up, which I've done multiple times, and taking that and sharing that would be. Not very many people say anymore. I made this horse. I raised this horse. I started it. I just put it on the pattern, and then I went and competed on it. Of course.
Yeah. So in your storytelling about your process, would you be the end result is selling a program or selling a horse?
A little bit of both, because that horse would have come from my program, of like how my process
About that.
go about.
Is the dog admitting you?
But that's how I guess. It would be more marketing the horse, and the horse would be the marketing of the program.
Okay. So there's multiple, so you're selling an actual horse
Mhm.
and an actual program.
Program with my foundation.
So would your program be, and this is how we want to start thinking through these processes, because we want to have clearly defined things so people get curious. And these are questions that someone looking at your stories might be like, okay, do I buy the horse or am I buying the program? And this isn't a bad thing. This is where you, like, where all the social media folks and online platform influencers or gurus that I follow say, most of the sales don't happen from your post or your stories on Instagram or your reels on TikTok, videos, all of that. Where sales happen is in the direct messages, in the questions that people following you are going to ask you. Because if someone takes the time to message you directly and say, so am I buying the horse or am I buying the program? Great question. This is these are, because you could do either or. I have a program that you can sign up for, and I'm doing my next series on this day or whatever that looks like. And that opens, because they're like the fish at the lure about ready to bite, and this is your opportunity to make it really appealing. And this is how digital storytelling draws the customer in, as opposed to when we just plop stuff out there and it's like, I'm selling. We've all been across those profiles. I'm selling. No, everyone's like, oh, I'm just selling, like whatever. But when we can tell these stories, like, I love fast horses. Well, why do you like fast horses? Because fast horses win, and I love to win. But what do you do that you're winning? I'm a barrel racer. Like, that was a whole story right there. So it's that simple, and just from the list that you wrote out. But then, we're gonna get to the next step of gathering the resources, because recording yourself in training sessions isn't always the easiest thing. Like, how are you gonna set it up? You can't like pull your phone out and be like, okay, I'm recording. That's really awkward, right? So you have to have resources, and then we'll get to that later on. And then, so is it motivating to an audience? So people that like to win, you want a winning horse, my program is gonna get you a winning horse. It's a proven program. And is it relatable? It's relatable 100% to folks that are barrel racers or in the rodeo and want fast horses. And can you tell the story in just a few minutes? One of the things that, depending on the platform that you're sharing your story, is what I'm learning as I'm stepping into the space of creating YouTube videos is you create a long form video, and then you take pieces of that video that lead people to want to then go to your YouTube channel to watch the longer form videos. So you take those chunks and put those in your social media platforms. So that's how you take a longer message and take chunks of like really cool things. And there's some artificial intelligence programs that you can use that will do that for you. Amazing. Which I think that's another training we're going to be doing in this series. So, and then, so telling it in a few minutes, being able to, if you're telling a big giant story, what are some pieces that you might pull from it that will shorten that message? And what sort of work do I need to do to be able to tell this story? Do I need to do background research, gather details from other people? Yours is coming from your own personal, your lived experience. So you're pulling from examples of, well, I did this with this horse and this is why I decided to take this route instead. And whatever your process is, right? You're starting, and then do you need to do research to go and say, well, research shows that when you interact with a horse this way, this is how they respond. Or if you have a horse that has trauma and you go about it this way, then this is how they'll respond based on these studies, which everybody likes to see studies somehow backed up by science. And then again, is there support materials like photos, data, or video, which you would be taking your own videos and photos, I'm guessing. And any data, after working with 50 horses, these are the outcomes. So that's the kind of stuff that you'll be sharing in your story. And then how can I use that to tell my story? So how does it, like, for your example, video and photo, and then we were talking about the process is going to be huge. And so the answers to these questions will help you decide which story idea may be right for this project. So from all of, like, I don't know about you, but I have like a bunch of ideas written down. Do you guys see a lot on your page?
Yeah.
So, do you mind sharing maybe one?
Yeah. So I moved into a new house last fall. And it's like the first real house I've lived in my adult life, my whole life up until then. I've been either living with my parents, in dorm halls, or apartments with friends at college. So it's been a process moving in and taking care of the house on the first time. So what I basically have here is a chore list of all the things I need to do to keep the house going, to keep it running. Some of those are routine items like vacuuming, dusting, all that stuff. Some of them are larger projects, landscaping in the yard, keeping the drainage out of the basement, getting a border around the
So is
side.
it a home you purchased?
It's a home it's a family.
Oh,
And that's where we get into my connection to it, is that my great grandparents built it back in the 1950s on a piece of land that's been with my family for over 100 years now. And they lived in it their whole lives. And then we did some renovations to it after they passed, and I moved into it when I moved back.
so renovations, cleaning, like all that stuff, people are like, no one's gonna watch cleaning videos. That's a lie. I'm following this girl who is renovating a house, like kind of the same thing that you're talking about. And so, like, how are you gonna tell, like, is this something that you wanna document and tell story about, or did you just like literally do the brain dump exercise?
I did the brain dump and I was thinking a bit like if I were to try to tell a story through some like video, the ways that I would probably go about it is using like time lapse footage to show me doing a lot of stuff, but like quickly by speeding up the footage, or I could do like before and after stuff. We have a lot of pictures from the house way back with the construction, with the mountains with pictures. We have pictures of the house, how it was before the renovation started, the house afterwards. And there's that stuff you can show as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can see this being a full YouTube channel.
That's right.
Like, and just like you post weekly updates or however often you post updates. That's cool. Cool. That's so that's how we start to generate the ideas, and like how we were talking about like pulling more detail from the ideas in our conversation. That's what we're looking to do when we find someone to talk about this with. 'Cause we didn't go
Yeah,
like, oh, go ahead.
I have a list too, and it's a little different perspective than I am a member of a very old Grange Hall that we are working really, really hard to give a new lease on life as a community center in a very small town. And we have very few people, but we are starting to grow. We have a lot of things that need to be done, repairs that need to be taken care of, water remediation because water is leaking into the basement. It needs an ADA ramp. We're having a big fundraiser um, because we're trying to get money so that we can actually produce an ADA ramp to get our seniors into the building. We just put in grants and were approved for a $62,000 grant for the water remediation. And so I'm trying to use Facebook mainly to get people reinvested in our Grange and let them know that it is it is the largest building in our small town that people can have events, weddings, that type of thing. Um, and so we're really trying to get more people to join the Grange so that they can assist us in, you know, creating opportunities for the community, as well as promote the improvements that we are working at and get more people involved in the community that will then help us with these improvements. So, I mean, and there's just a few of us. So whatever story I tell needs to be one of opportunity and you know, and ownership of this wonderful old building so that it lasts another 70 years into the future. And anyway, so that's why I'm here. What can you help me with on that one?
Yeah, so you said a lot of really fantastic things about building and understanding and reconnection. And, because, I don't know about you guys, but the Grange has always seemed like a place that wasn't for where I would go. Like, why would I go to the Grange? And I think
Me either.
developing a story about and building that reconnecting with folks to understand, like, this is what you could do here, this is what's available, this is how you can utilize the space. And and this is what is currently happening in the space.
Yeah.
That's where I really like the story comes through, and also the history of what the Grange represents. And you know, my limited understanding of Grange halls is that they were typically a gathering place where celebrations would happen.
They were, and you know, realistically, we are the most ungrange like people there is, because our idea is not agriculture and such, because we have some agriculture here, but we want it to be a community center where people can come and have dances, where they can come and do classes, where they can have celebrations, where they can rent it for family functions. We got $25,000 to redo our kitchen, so we have a certified kitchen for those people that want to cook or bake or can or you know, and need a place that is qualified. And you know, so I mean, we're making all these strides, but you know, we're not into the normal quilt making and cotton candy and popcorn balls. We're more into community and trying to create programs and events, even if it's a bingo night and dances and music, and you know, creating a community place and having people feel that they can be proud of this building to come and celebrate whatever is in their life at that moment. It is needs a lot of TLC, and it is not particularly pretty right now. But we have a 2-year vision, and we got a $62,000 grant to get a good thing started. So we just want to get our community energized so that they will become a part, they'll want to use it, but possibly that they will help us in this effort that we are doing now, because there's just a few of us, but it is slowly growing. Um, and I do think that having an excitement in how you discuss it is a huge factor.
Yeah,
So
so just off the top of my head, I feel like the first step would just be like, what is the messaging that you want? Like, what do you want people to feel about the Grange? Like, what connection? How are you gonna tell that community story? How are you gonna tell a relatable story around how this is not just like, this isn't the typical, like, typical Grange. We aren't quilting. It's something we could, but that's not like our focus. It could be also, and this is just shooting from the hip without knowing too much more about the organization that your group is, maybe a reconnection to the younger population potentially, and how that might thread through building that community again. Because and also developing an understanding of what is the current perception of the Grange. Like,
I know.
what does everyone think of it right now? Because unless you know that first, you can't figure out how far you have to rebuild an understanding and knowing of the direction that you're going in. So I would say, like, just starting, maybe put something out on Facebook, and or because if that's a platform that you're focusing on, like, do a poll, like, what do you think of the Grange? What do you think of when you think of the Grange Hall? And then that'll give you a really general, because not everybody is going to answer, but it'll give you a little bit of a starting point. And the next would be potentially going to other community events and setting up a booth, and just polling people as they walk by, like, what do you think of the Grange? What do you think of when you hear the Grange Hall? And that's going to give you that baseline of understanding to know where you are currently, because physically the structure, it sounds like you have a really good idea of where you're at, but community connection wise, it feels like maybe there isn't a total understanding on both sides, like what is the community perspective, what do the community think of it? And then how do we change that as an organization? And not only build relationships, but also get more folks to be a part of the process, so it isn't just falling on a handful of dedicated folks.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
So that you're literally building a foundation, both physically and figuratively, with the community, both with the structure itself. So there's a story there, you know, showing the improvement, showing the process through photos, through videos, through, you know, just telling that story about like we're working on improving this space to make it more available, more appealing, more available, which is going to start building that connection. And people are like, oh, nice, it's going to be maybe it'll be a cool space to host an event. And, you know, anything that gets booked, maybe including in the agreement that, you know, you'll want to capture some images or videos, or even hosting some mock events that are specifically designed to be able to capture content to start promoting and connecting with the audience that you want to connect with. That are going go ahead.
We have a big benefit coming up in April. It's a fundraising dinner, and it's the second time we've done it. It's not like the Grange hasn't been there for forever. It's just that, you know, new life hasn't been in the Grange for forever, you know. But we had a dinner last year, and it was really very, very nice. And we're going to be doing it again this year. And I think that just the opportunity of seeing the Grange with nice tablecloths and decorated, you know, shows possibilities, let alone a bunch of people enjoying themselves at this function. So I'm really excited. They didn't take good pictures last year, which was really, and I happened to be sick with COVID during the event, so I couldn't do it myself. But I think that that's a good start for us to show, you know, what it looks like, what it can be, a great group of people. And we're hoping, although I'm not sure if we'll be able to pull it off, to create almost like this is where we are now. This is what we've done. These are the other things that we plan to do on one of the walls, so that people can really see our vision.
Mm. Yeah, and that's a great example of the process of telling the story of where you are, where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go. And that's a digital story in and of itself for that building, for that organization. So like this is what the Grange started out. This is the history of it. These are the types of things that happen here. And then this is where we're at right now. We're kind of in this rebuilding, restructuring, reconnecting phase. We're both restructuring the building itself, and we also want to start to incorporate new ideas, new events, and have this be a gathering place again. And in the future, this is how we see it manifesting. And, you know, with events, with wedding receptions, with, you know, and then showing imagery that represents the vision, if you will.
Okay. Well,
That
thank you.
That would be a great story.
I hope so. I'm, you know, obviously I'm passionate about it, and there's just a few core people that are crazy passionate, but we're getting tired, and we need additional blood. So it's important to be able to get more people involved so that they can see the potential and share the vision. So I mean, that's like my real focus right now, is just to get more people involved so that we can do all the big things we have planned. So
Carla, this is Ronnie Holder Diefenbach from the Economic Alliance. I just are you from the Orville Grange?
Yes.
I just seen read in the paper that you guys got a special appropriation from the state legislature. That's a big
We,
piece of your story.
yes, it is. We literally talked to Shelley Short, the senator,
Uh-huh.
our state senator, and went out to the ranch for Representative, I never say his name right,
Kretz.
Kretz.
Mhm.
And you know, we've really been knocking on doors and asking for help. We have a business in town that is very interested in helping us. So um, you know, they gave us the $25,000 for our kitchen. You know, so it's just we need to make it so that other people will help us, because there's not enough of us. We need more. You know, so and we've got 2 years, and we've got a lot on our plate, and we're slowly getting more people involved, but you know, we need to make it a little more rapid to get more people involved.
Well, I think that that's a good first start. That's a huge piece of your success is being able to get that funding. So how you can incorporate that into your story, because it went out in the paper. So everybody right now has the Orville Grange in the back of their mind, thinking about the money that you just received or that you're going to be receiving to do these upgrades and repairs. So how can we be involved? And so that's, I mean, I'm sorry for interrupting and jumping in
No,
here, but I think that
no.
that's, I just read that yesterday in the paper, so I was like, wow, I'm so
Which
excited for
paper
them.
did you see that in?
I think it was in the Orville, the Gazette, I believe.
Okay. We sent it out, we did a press release and we sent it out to 4 different papers, so that's the only
Well,
one
I've
that I
probably
know of
seen it
so
in all
far.
four because I get them all.
We haven't s I haven't seen it in the others, so that's why I was curious if anybody else picked it up, so, you know, but yeah, I mean, it's amazing what a small group of very dedicated, crazy old ladies can do. But, but we do need help. So that's the big focus for me right now, is to get people excited so that they'll want to assist us, because we need more.
Carla, if I might for a minute, um, in Okanagan here, I've been thinking about the Grange recently. Because a friend of mine who is a DJ has started renting out the Okanagan Grange for one night a month. He puts on an EDM concert. Um, and it's a place that young people can go on a Saturday night in a town where all the bars close by 9 p.m. and hang out
Yes.
with their friends. And I think that that's something like that is a great way to get people excited about the Grange as an event space and demonstrate kind of the possibility of what a Grange can do for a community.
I mean, that's certainly is a possibility. I mean, we are very open to, you know, that type of thing up here. Too bad he doesn't live closer.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure there's a number of people in our community though with different talents who are looking for a place to perform for other people. Just something to keep in mind.
oh, it definitely is. I'm going to bring that up at our next meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just another side note, just thinking of our local Grange, like the barrier to entry to book the Grange, like how can you make it easier for folks to access and know whether or not it's available, what the rates are, what is included?
We just did an overhaul, and we're still working on our website. We found a just wonderful person who knows how to do that. And so we've updated our pricing, which was not correct. We've updated our calendar of events that shows the dates that are available on our website. And she is trying to find some more pleasing looks, because I don't know anything about websites. So I'm glad that she does that. And we work together. I do the Facebook. But And, you know, we're trying to make things much more. One of the things we really need to do, they have the most gloomy pictures of the hall on our website. So I mean, if you look at it, it almost looks like a dungeon. All the lights are off, and so, you know, we are trying to update and upgrade, you know, our website with the best information. And I'm looking forward to taking pictures before our event in April with all the tables done. So it'll look fresh and beautiful. And instead of a gloomy looking Grange picture that's currently there, we'll be able to use this to, you know, advertise the possibilities as well. So,
That's awesome. Yeah,
so
because
we're trying.
I know personally, I always get told you should do stuff at the Grange. You should, and I would love to, but I'm a busy person. And if I can't just instantly figure out how to book it and get in the space, I move on to the next. So I share that only because that will change the dynamics of how people are able to reserve the space and book the space.
Yeah,
You're
we were really aware of that because we didn't have anybody monitoring our website. And you know, and I ended up stepping up to do the Facebook page, and didn't know how to do posters, and ended up getting Canva. And so now I do, you know, posters or flyers, I should say, and Facebook posts. Um and we've got now a wonderful person that's doing our website, so that she is upgrading and updating as we go, so that, you know, it has up to the minute. And also the link to our email wasn't being monitored. So, you know, I mean, that is happening now too. So that, you know, so we're addressing all of these issues. So it, but unfortunately, some of the older people that just are not tech savvy. And I am, you know, I mean, they don't even know how to turn on the computer, let alone do those other things. But
Yeah, and
anyway, so
that's where the share about the EDM events and, you know, that could be something that's going to attract a younger group that are all about that.
no,
And
it's
you know,
true.
there could be potential trade opportunities and, you know, even in the short term, you know, you might not be getting the revenue for renting the space, but you're getting the benefit of not having y'all doing everything. But everything that you're talking about is exactly in line with digital storytelling by updating your imagery and creating a more appealing website that makes folks want to have an event there. And also, I loved what Ronnie shared. I know she apologized for interrupting, but it wasn't an interruption. Because I mean, that's how we all learn, right? Is feedback from other people. And I didn't know about the article. So, and that's really important, is for us to be able to springboard off of momentum that's already happening. And when you're an organization that is limited in resources, like manpower wise, it's hard to stay on top of all that. And that's why having a community of folks that are able to, like, hey man, I just saw this article come out, like, oh really, it came out, then you can leverage that attention that's coming and and that's a chance people are going to start looking at the Grange. And so if there's nothing there about it comes to a stop, right? But if there's a
Yeah.
story that you're telling about how we acquired this grant, what it's going to be used for, and you know, whatever, you know, basically putting your press release in digital format online.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, thank you. I've got a lot of ideas spinning around in this old brain here now. So
Good,
that's
good.
good.
Well, write them down because that hamster likes to keep spinning.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does.
Speaking from,
Especially when you're wearing multiple hats.
yes, yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, Carla, for chiming in. I love dialogue. Sometimes my workshops get done really fast because nobody talks. So I always leave a cushion in case folks like actually start sharing. So I appreciate you unmuting and sharing.
Well, I appreciate the input because that's what I need. So,
Yeah, that primary research is really valuable in small communities because it's easy to get like what we think as the facilitator in the organization or in our businesses, like what we believe is needed, but what we find out from the community might not be what the community needs. So it's those conversations that you have that's gonna make a big impact.
gotcha. No, that's true.
Even going to like, this sounds like the high school and talking to the teachers and the kids. Like going
We
in,
actually we actually are. We're really lucky because one of the gals who is involved, one of her sons is in high school, and they came to us to actually hold their dance.
yeah.
You know, so I mean, how
Yeah,
many how many thousands of years has it been since we had high schoolers having a dance at the Grange? You
right.
know, 50s, you know? So, I I mean, that's like a really that's really kinda awesome
Yeah, and
for us.
that's a story to tell. And not only that, you can put up a sign with the QR code or a hashtag for that the Grange is going to be using, like the Orville Grange, hashtag Orville Grange, or whatever you might use. And then as the kids are posting, say, hey, tag the Grange on your social media post, which means that the Grange will have to be on the platforms that the kids are on, because they're not on Facebook. You'll have to
I
either
know.
be on TikTok, which may not be around anymore, but platforms like Instagram or Snapchat is like a whole other world. So I'm
Yes,
worried.
I find my 14-year-old granddaughter is on Instagram, so I need to actually start doing that, I suppose, for the Grange now.
Yeah, Instagram is a great platform. It's pretty neutral.
And it tends to skew younger than Facebook too, in my experience.
Yeah, Instagram is definitely.
Okay. All right. I've got new things to consider. Woo! Okay, gotta learn that one now.
Well, we are gonna talk a little bit about Instagram and
Okay.
not today necessarily. Well, I might, if we have time, I can show a little bit of Instagram stuff. But it is woven into just about all the classes in the series. And the one that I think I'm talking about it the most, I want to say, is it's using AI for social media content creation.
Okay.
But, and then I think the marketing one, I've integrated quite a bit of social media basics. So,
Cool. Well, I will let you get back on to stuff. Thank you for letting me get all excited about my Grange. So
I said, I appreciate it. It helps dialogue and also it helps others learn as well through that process. So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
well, thank you for giving me some tips. I'm ready to learn more. And I'm
Yay.
gonna mute it again because I need to let my dogs in and they were very loud.
Yeah.
So
They had a lot to say. Awesome. All right.
and they don't shut up. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So we can go to the next. Thing. There. So this is just a page that you'll get in the workbook when you get the PDF of it. And this is just where you start to capture your ideas. If you don't have a notebook, this way you have it in a notebook. So it's just basically breaking down a couple of the questions from the previous page. These are the ones that I felt like were the most important to share a narrative in a digital story. Like what, first of all, what are your ideas? What are some of the ideas that you would want to share? Like we might have a lot of ideas, but some of them maybe don't belong in the digital storytelling space online. And then also our connection to this topic. And once we really when we talk about our connection to the topic, that's when we start to develop connection to the community that is going to be our customer, be our client, be our loyal fan, be our volunteers. So when we talk about our passions, that's when we can start to develop a connection to people that align with the organization or the business that we are talking about. So we can go 2 ahead, because this one's just a blank sheet to write more notes. Which we come to step 2, which is developing a plan. So once you have a few ideas, then you can start to get ideas for how you're going to tell the story, how you're going to organize your thoughts. Which when talking with Carla, we got a couple of examples how, the ideas are out there. Like I love the example of telling the history of the Grange versus where we are right now, and then the vision. That's an amazing story. And Carla shared all that without the structure of how that might flow. And then through that, it was, let's tell the history, where we are and where we want to go. And that's something that folks can kind of start to resonate with. And that's why I love the brain dump exercises, and I love, because then we can start to develop a structure. So the first thing we're going to do when we're developing that structure is starting to define the purpose. Like, okay, why, and I'll just keep using Carla's example with the history of the Grange, where the Grange is now, where it wants to go. Why do people share a purpose? Define the purpose of why we would want to share this story. The purpose would be so that people who may still have this old school concept of what the Grange is, yeah, we recognize that's where it started. Where we're at right now is we're in the middle of making some really big changes, both in the structure of the building to make it more appealing and more safe. We're going to have a kitchen where folks can, prepare and cater events. And, in the future, we're hoping what we want to create is a space for the community to host events. We're already having our first high school dance is going to be hosted. And we want to create more life and energy in the space again. Keeping up with modern times, if you will. Telling the story, like I could just see a digital story, because I'm saying this, Carla, only because you said it, is a bunch of old ladies sitting on the front porch of the Grange or a building in their rocking chairs. I remember back in the day, the Grange, we used to get together. That's where I met my husband. And you're telling this funny story. And then, you can see into the future of like, this is what it is now. Now the Grange is a cool place where my grandkids or my children go and they have their wedding reception, or they have their high school dances. And, what is the purpose of the story? So you can just, there's a million different ways you could tell that story, but, do you want to make it funny? Do you want to make it serious? And, you could approach it from all of those different angles. And, you can even have like great opportunities to interview folks that have been involved with the Grange in the past and like sharing their memories. Like, oh man, I remember going to this event at the Grange, back in the day. Those are the funnest stories to watch. I know I watch a lot of elders on social media because, not only are they funny, but that old school, that perspective and the way of communicating and the way it translates into digital story media is amazing. It's just pure and entertaining. So why share personal stories? Well, personal stories, they're connectors. They help people develop a loyalty, a connection to your organization, your product, or your service, whatever it is. personal stories with, you know, why when I was already running behind and feeling overwhelmed, did I feel like I needed to stop at Crafted on my way here to grab a coffee? Well, because when Crafted first opened, I used to sit there in their space, and that was where I wrote a lot of the workshops that I teach today. And so there's like, and I walk in and I see all these people I know, I got like 3 hugs. And, you know, it was just an amazing experience. It's like Cheers, the show Cheers. You walk in and everybody knows your name. And so I could tell this, that wasn't a great structured story, but I could tell this whole story about why I would stop there even though I was running a little bit behind. And then, you know, thinking about a time when you were inspired by someone's stories, you know, what made that story unique? You know, when you think about stories of other places, other products, other people, you know, what drew you to that story? Was it the tone that they used? Was it the way that they spoke? Was it the words? Was it the images? You know, what made that, what resonated with you? And how did it make you feel? That's like one of the most important things, is like when we look at other creators in the digital story space, you know, did it make you laugh? Did it make you cry? Did it make you feel connection? Did it make you feel like it's time to stand up and, you know, make change? How did that story make you feel? And how might you duplicate that into your own story, to your own vision? And then what was the message? What message do you want to deliver? You know, if the message is I create a program for horses, for barrel racers, so you can have fast horses, because barrel racing, it's a race, so you need a fast horse. And my program will help you get your horse fast, or whatever. Or you can buy one that I've already set through the program. And so, you know, what is my message? My message is I create fast barrel horses. My program will make your horse fast. Or my program is broken down into step-by-step processes that will allow you to work with your horse to create a bond, first of all, plus also get your horse fast, you know. So it's always the common thread would be the end result of your program. So reflect on what you hope to achieve by sharing your story and frame your message to answer questions like the ones mentioned above. For example, what impact might your story have on other people? What makes your story unique? And are you trying to inform, convince, or question your audience? So, you know, as we're creating these stories, so this can feel like a lot of steps, and the first couple times that you go through this, creating your stories, it's going to be like, this is so much, Roxanne. This is more work. I don't have enough time. But once you go through it a few times, all of this is just going to start to become intuitive. As you're creating your stories, you're just gonna naturally start to answer all these questions without having to go step by step. But if you start the process by going step by step, like I'm showing you here, even though it takes a little bit more time in the beginning, as you start to incorporate this into your digital storytelling, it's going to just start to become natural, and it'll just be a process. And everything you create is going to have structure. Some of the best stories that we see online, this great social media content, or these great YouTube videos, they aren't just willy-nilly thrown up there because, oh, I need to put something out there. They're actually going through this process of developing an idea and developing a plan. How am I going to tell the story? What is it going to look like? How is it going to feel to my audience? You know, they actually go through this process. And so in this developing a plan option, we can create a storyboard. And if we go to the next slide, this is an example of a storyboard that you could utilize. So you'll get a copy. You can hand draw like images in there. Like if I were to create a storyboard for Carla's story of where the Grange started, where it's at now, and where it's going to go, I would probably, like, that first square would be based on the story that I created in my brain. for some reason, it's three grandmas sitting in rocking chairs or sitting on the steps leading up to the Grange. And they're telling the story of the first, like how they met their spouse, or how they, their first experience at the Grange, like what they remember it to be like. And you want it to be really catchy. And then the second slide is maybe, the Grange right now isn't what it used to be. Right now, the building needs repairs and blah, 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 blah. And then if we weren't grandmas sitting on the stoop, we could probably do it ourselves, but so you're creating a script, but also imagery as you go through your storyboard. And what this does is it coming from someone who's created a ton of video stories, when I don't create a storyboard and I just willy-nilly shoot, it is so much work on the other end when I'm trying to put it together. But when I go, okay, I know I need to get the person introducing themselves, who they are, where they're from, what their business is. Now I need them to tell, like, why did they start their business? Then I want them to go into, and so I have questions when I'm interviewing people that are specifically guiding through my storyboard, so that when I go to put my videos together or my photo shoots into a story, they just flow the way that I want the story to go. And so here you could put video clips, you could put images, you could put whatever you wanted to. And then of course the thought bubbles are, where you can put text, what someone's gonna say or how they're gonna act. And so that's one option for your story. And I'm a big fan of the storyboard. As much as I hate using them, they have saved so much time and energy. And that brings us to the third step, which actually I want to go backwards because we're going to do this activity. So let's go to the other slide where we're developing the plan. And I'm just going to set a timer. It is 10:38. And so taking one of the ideas from the list that we brainstormed, and we're just gonna create an idea, like what is a story that we might tell in either 5 seconds, 7 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour. So starting small is harder than going big. So we might go big first and then start to like pull out like sound bites, if you will, like those catchy phrases or these moments that are attention getters that we can then, go from maybe a YouTube video to then put on social media. So again, I'm going to set my timer 5 minutes again. And then just create a storyboard, create a plan based on step 2 and one of the ideas from your list. So was that enough time? Do you wanna share yours? Or you don't have to?
Sure. I mean, it's kind of like, this is what I can do now, and then kind of like, obviously, like, the final goal is still eventually going on it, but I just kind of like with the start of like why I chose the stuff that I read my mare to, what research I did, and then when like we ended up deciding to take my mare down to Hermiston to have her be bred, like we didn't even do it here in town. And then like Snipe, so his name is Snipe, he's a he's a good, but like him being born and like over the 2 years before, you know, like once you have a baby, you still have to wait 2 years before you can ride him. And then like the process my sister took, because I had my sister started by having my sister start him, and like this spring where like I'm starting to get him ready to like start him on the path, get him where he's broken, he's ready to even take that next step, and he has the skill foundation to do that. And then like this summer and next summer, the goal will be to haul into galleries and then get him used to the atmosphere and do exhibitions, that kind of thing. And then November 2025, he'll be eligible to maturity. He will be able to enter in November 5, and then eventually.
And that's a whole, like, you could tell, like, each part of that is an individual story in itself. And so you just created a timeline telling, and that, you know, the starting is like the opening idea of this is how I got my colt that I will be bringing to its first, like, competition in November 2025, 6, whatever the date is.
Yeah.
And then that just kind of gets people to go, oh, this is cool. I'd love to like see that process. And then they start to follow your process. And you just create individual stories that are part of the whole story based on your outline. Cool. Awesome. Oh, yeah.
Cool. Did anyone else have a plan to tell their story? Savannah, are you there? Carla, I see Carla unmuted.
Well, I'm not sure I did it correctly, but after thinking about it, there are a bunch of old pictures from when the Grange was first built. You know, and I wanted you to. I'm thinking in terms. I'm using this as the big picture display that I want to have on a wall. I want a full thing, so when people come in there for our dinner, they see like big bubbles. This with an arrow to this, a bubble to this with an arrow. You know, and the first one is, I think it was built in 1955, and my first thought was a bunch of the old pictures of the people that were involved. The next is a picture of it today, where, you know, it looks pretty shabby and it needs a lot of love. The next would be pictures of the kitchen remodel, you know, what we've achieved already in a date. The next would be, I mean, we don't have pictures of it exactly, but you know, an ADA ramp, and maybe I can get a sketch or come up with a sketch to show it. You know, the next would be just going on about our drainage remediation, and I'm debating on whether I should have pictures of the water damage on the floors, or if that's too negative, or if I should show like pictures of like an earth mover and a big trench. You know, I'm trying to figure it out. Then of course exterior painting, and interior refurbishments, because the company in town that does lumber is going to donate paneling for us so that we can repanel the downstairs where it's all damaged. And then end with, if I can pull it off, a sketch of what the future potential look would be. That's so. Anyways, that's what's coming to my mind. So
Yeah, no, that's great. And I love how you're like, your actual storyboard that you're gonna tell on the wall in images could actually be a digital story also. So, yeah, that's fantastic.
I do wonder, as far as the drainage, do I want to show the water damage, the water on the floor? Or do I want to just go to the positive on, you know, like the potential of ditches being dug in, look up like dimple walls and things like that, so I can, and backhoes, I mean, and have some kind of a representation of it that way, because it's in the future, but
Yeah, I
you
could
know,
see the potential of a revitalization story being told through
yeah,
like slow motion, like the prop, like pictures of like where it's at and how it's been improving, kind of like one of the remodel channels that you see online, where
mhm,
they just tell that story, and it's showing the good, the bad, and the ugly. But
yeah,
again,
okay.
that, is that's gonna get people interested and potentially following, because everybody likes a remodel story. Well, not everybody, but there's a huge audience for that topic. And
Well, I think that, this is a great big space, and if I can kind of take up the entire space, and I think of it as like a bubble with an arrow to the next bubble. You know what I mean? So that there's like a definite path until the completion.
yeah,
You know, I don't see how anybody cannot walk by there and stop and say, "Wow."
yeah, and I feel, Carla, like your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is how are you going to turn that into a digital story? And how can you, because that's where you're going to attract people outside of the existing community that are attending events there, is putting it out there in the digital storytelling space. So whether it's taking a picture of each image and creating a story that way, or if it's just videoing the wall and zooming in on each image and then flowing through the story that is on the wall. That's where the fun part comes. I guess maybe it's not fun for everybody, but to figure out how you're going to tell that story.
Since I
Not only,
don't know how to do that or add music or create like a video of those kind of things, this is all a big learning curve.
yeah,
So,
and at the end, I'm hoping to be able to show a little bit of the that process of putting it all together.
but even just coming up with the ideas, that's I think almost the biggest battle
Yeah,
is creating a cohesive plan and that will do what it needs to do to make people aware of how serious we are and what's on the agenda and what we've done so far,
well, and
you know.
this is for everyone in general. We always have to remember that when we are looking at attracting, whether it's customers, volunteers, or employees, everybody's looking from the lens of how does it benefit me, the individual, not the organization, not the business, not anybody else. most of the time people are like, why do I want to be involved? Why do I want to work there? Why do I want to be that person's customer? And oftentimes, and I know probably every organization, every business owner, we get guilty of meat marketing where we're thinking this is what the customer needs and wants, but we don't really know. So until we know what the customer wants and needs, or the volunteer or the employee, we can't speak to that. And so always remember, messaging that we're putting out is, how does it benefit you, the customer, not the organization? And I say organization because it's the Grange.
Gotcha.
But like
No, that makes sense.
yeah, like when I'm talking about yoga classes, I'm not talking about how yoga benefits me when you come to my yoga class. I'm talking about how your life can transform, or how, you know, doing certain things is going to help you connect with other parts of your life as the consumer of it.
Well, yeah. Well, it's basically you're in sales too. I mean, and I used to be in sales. I used to sell high-end furniture in the Seattle area.
Yeah.
And you know, the goal when you're talking to a customer is to show them the advantage of the enjoyment and the beauty that they're going to see, you
Yeah.
know, finding that little sweet spot that is key to them, and focusing on that to help them live that experience of having that beautiful new living room set or bedroom set or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, I know that you're talking about the visual at the event on the wall, but also I would encourage you to start thinking in terms of like how that translates to a message that will resonate with the community at large. And
No, I hadn't thought of that before, but it's definitely yeah. Don't know how to do it yet, but I'm definitely thinking about it, so that's good.
you know, there's a lot to unpack there, but it's possible. It's there. And
Hmm.
Savannah, did you have anything to add? I know that your camera's off and you're muted, but I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to share as well. It is Savannah, right? I say, yep. Okay. Well, I encourage you, if you have any insights or thoughts, to chime in as well, Savannah. All right. Well, cool. So before we move on, I just want to share like what because your version of the storyboard was awesome. Carla, your version of the visuals of telling the past, present, and future of the Grange is another amazing approach. But so one of the things on my list to share was about the coaching program that I do, which is like kind of a holistic approach to coaching. And I've been trying to figure out like how can I talk about this in social media or online, and just to demonstrate like what the storyboarding can look like also is, so I said, okay, I'm gonna create a talking video with stock video or images that represent each phase of this. So what is it? It's Vision Quest, a modern day approach to an ancient tradition. And then I'm going to tell the story of back in the day, what Vision Quest looked like and what it entailed. And then why we need a modern approach. And then I'm going to talk about the time and access to guides to go on a Vision Quest. And I put insert a joke about how Walt Disney portrayed Vision Quest as sending our youth off on their own to survive in the wild, but what it actually is. So just adding a little humor twist in there. And then describing like what is a modern Vision Quest and why does a business owner or an individual or a teenager need to take a modern day Vision Quest. So and as I'm reading it, I think I might flip that and say, and talk about why people need a modern day Vision Quest, because then I'm identifying the problem first. And then, the very end would be talking about the process involved in the modern day Vision Quest. And that's the storyboard. And with each of these sections, I'll be looking for visuals or videos that will represent each of those components. So that's like a really simple, there's a lot more that will go into it, but that's a simple way that I'm going to start to put this message out there. And then I can see too how each of these could be individual videos. It could be a long form story on YouTube, and then I'll just take parts of it to put out on social media. So, I mean, that's what this storyboard is meant to do, is to just create a structure, because even though after I'm reading it out loud, I'm seeing how I might rearrange things, but this has been in my brain for like 2-3 months now. And until I wrote it down, I wasn't able to start to like rearrange and restructure things. And so that's why it's so important for us to start to put the ideas down in a document, somehow capture the ideas. And I personally am a fan of writing it down, because the tactile activity of writing helps the brain to start to process things in a different way. But you can also type it into a document. You could also use, a voice memo. But the problem with the voice memo is that it's still sort of not a tangible. Yes, we can go back and listen to it again, but until we write it down or get it into a space that we can start to manipulate the flow of the story, it's still sort of on the hamster wheel, or it's just going, or it's just out there with no ability to become something. So that's creating a storyboard. It can be as simple or as detailed, like the horse training model, as we need it to be, and as short or as long as it needs to be as well. But it's up to us to determine, like, what is the purpose of this story? Going back to the purpose of the story of my coaching program, is the purpose is to inform people that there's a modern day approach to an ancient tradition, which is Vision Quest, and letting people know why it's important that we continue that process and why we need a modern approach. So going back to, let's see, it's 11 o'clock. Okay, we're good. How about we do this, because I want everyone to be able to like step away for just a minute. We're going to just take a 5-minute bio break, because we've been going. And so before we go into gathering resources, it's 11:03 on my clock. So let's come back at 11:08 and we'll get into step 3 of the process. So now we're in the part of gathering our resources, and this can be several different aspects, but really the basics are first identifying what tools do I have to create the digital story that I want to tell. So like I mentioned before, just about everybody on the planet, just about, has some sort of a smartphone with a camera. Even flip phones have like a camera. So even if you have ancient technology, you can still do a level of capturing video without going to the expense of buying thousands and thousands of dollars of video or camera equipment. So first step is starting to look at, what do I have? What do I want to capture? And does what I have fit my need for what I want to capture? For example, using the horse video example. Not every single, not that one, but capturing training videos, you're not always going to be able to handhold your device. So we're just saying that all of us are using our smartphones as our capturing tool. And so one item that I always recommend that people invest in is a tripod for your phone. And you can find them on the TikTok shop. There's a great one for like 15 bucks. It's under $20. There's another one on Amazon that, and I like have bought multiple versions of smartphone tripods. So I feel like I'm an expert. But there's one that I have one in my gym bag, one in my yoga bag, one that lives in my car, one that is in my home. And I also, and these are all like versions that I've tried, and the ones that I like the most are the ones that I carry with me, that I utilize the most. And then I have my professional tripods that I use with my DSLR camera that requires more stability. But if I could recommend any investment, it would be a tripod. And that is, so if you wanted to, you could set up your camera on a tripod, have it framed into the area that you're shooting, that you're videoing or photographing. And then you can be hands-free, for one, and two, you can do the activity that is required of you without having to balance or find something to balance your phone on or whatever, so that the phone is stable and you're able to capture really nice content. Another investment, and most smartphone tripods that are sold today come with some sort of a Bluetooth remote. I don't trust those, but they work great. Like if you're doing your back facing camera, which is like if you're looking at your phone and you're videoing something that's over there. So it isn't your selfie camera. Your selfie camera is where you can see yourself in the image. And that lens isn't always the best lens. So oftentimes I will set my tripod up. So if this is my selfie side, I'll set my tripod up. So let's say I'm shooting a video of me over on this side, set my tripod up so the back facing camera is recording me. So I'll have to have everything framed in. And then if I go to the other side and hit my remote, and it's a hope and pray game, hope it's recording. When you're in selfie mode though, if I'm still over here and I flip my phone around and I hit record, I can see if it's recording or not. So and speaking from experience, I've recorded yoga videos, like a 15-minute flow. Thought I was recording, went to watch it, wasn't recording. Did it 4 times. And finally, I just hit record, walked over, did the flow, came back, hit stop. So, you'll learn as you go, but those remotes, those Bluetooth remotes are great, but they're not 100% effective. And it just depends. If you can see the recording is recording because you're in selfie mode and the camera's facing you, that's great. But if you're in the back facing camera and you can't see that it's recording, that becomes a little bit of an issue. But anyway, so smartphone, number 1. Number 2, a tripod. Number 3, a Bluetooth remote control. If you want to be in your spot and start the video. I use my Bluetooth remote all the time because I don't have the budget to hire a photographer. So I do a lot of my own photography using a Bluetooth remote. So So those are the three things that are the basics of what you might need. And you may not need anything except for your phone, because we can prop our phones up on a ledge or something, but then we're risking the phone falling over or falling off and getting damaged. So that's another reason I really like using a tripod, because it's secure. And the one that I have, and I brought it on a trip and I forgot to put it back where it was meant to live, but it opens up, it folds into a tube that's maybe a little bit longer than my pen. So it might be this long, like this long. And then the feet open out to the bottom, the feet open up as wide as this. And then the top part twists and telescopes to get almost as tall as me. And then it has the mount on the top for my phone. And I can turn the phone either in portrait mode, which is having the phone straight up and down, or I can turn it into landscape mode, which is the phone sideways. And well, because we're here, I'll talk about it. So if you're shooting an Instagram or a TikTok reel or TikTok video, you want to be in this up and down format, the portrait format. But if you're shooting a YouTube video, you want the phone to be in landscape, because that's the format that YouTube videos are captured. So just knowing those two factors is going to help you in determining whether you want to be in landscape mode or portrait mode. And the mode is not a setting on your phone. It's just the direction that you're holding the phone, whether it's sideways or up and down. So most content today is shot using portrait mode, straight up and down, because you're either creating an Instagram story, a TikTok reel, and if you're on a platform like Pinterest, even in Pinterest, those are up and down this portrait format, the ratio. So resources, another part of gathering resources is understanding how to use the resource that we have available. So our phone, our tripod, and our remote. So if I were to add a fourth item to our gear list, that would be a microphone. Especially if you're recording videos. The microphone on our phones or our laptops or our iPads or tablets, those are okay. They do a decent job and they're getting better and better. But using a Bluetooth, or sorry, a wireless microphone, they make some that just pop right into the bottom of your phone. And then they broadcast, and you can have a little lapel mic that hooks onto you. And those do really decent quality audio. You can invest in like, I use the Rode Go 2 mics, which they're little square mics that plugs in. It dangles down. I usually stick it somewhere on my tripod so that it's not just dangling. And then there's another square remote that connects to my shirt somewhere. It's a little bit bigger, but it captures really amazing audio. So not a priority if you have it in the budget to add a wireless mic to your arsenal of resources. I would recommend that, especially if you're doing a lot of talking videos. It really changes the game for the audio that your customers or your viewers are being able to experience. So that's the technology part of the resources that we want to be aware of. Then what other resources might we need to gather? Other resources are going to be the videos and images that we're going to use to tell our digital story. So either we're creating them using our device or cameras or whatever we're using, or we're going to an area where we can use stock footage, which is footage that has already been created and is available for use without copyright infringement. So what resources do we have with? Do I need to create the resources? Do I need to go out and take the photos? Do I need to capture the video? Do I have the audio files? Or am I going to use background music? And if I am, what are some things to consider? If we're posting to a platform like YouTube, we need to make sure that the video sound that we're using is not copyright protected. Because YouTube is amazing because it scans your video when you're uploading it to the platform, and it will check for any copyright violations. And if you do have a song that is not available for open use, then they will restrict your video. You won't be able to monetize it, and two, they may make you take it down, or they'll just remove the audio. So that's one of the limitations of utilizing these platforms, is we're subject to the rules and regulations that these platforms have put in place. It's like going into it's like living in a rental as opposed to owning your home. When you're in a rental, you can't just willy-nilly tear walls down without permission from the owner of the home. But when you own the home, you can decide, I'm going to tear that wall down and do all these different things. When we're on social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, they have rules that we have to follow. We're renting space from them, if you will. So we want to make sure that we're following the guidelines. And despite how frustrating it might be, copyright infringement is a huge guideline on YouTube right now. So it always has been. Well, no, it hasn't always been, but after a lot of people were using copyright protected audio and music and some video, they started to do a really good job at detecting. And so I'm going to tell you, I do my yoga classes and I record them and I upload them to a private space on my YouTube channel. And you can't most of the time, because I do voice isolation. So you can't even really hear the music in my recordings. And I do that on purpose. A couple of times I stopped talking and the music was still playing in the background just for a smidge of time. And they copyright flagged my video. And they were like, this is copyrighted material. It is available for use on YouTube by the producer. However, this video will not be available for monetization. So if that video went viral, because of that little section that you can barely even hear it was detected, then that video is no longer available for monetization, which may or may not be a problem for the creator. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're using sounds that are available on the different platforms. If you're a TikTok user, you may have noticed that, was it Paramount Music? They were like, we're not allowing any more of our musicians' music to be used on TikTok. And so just like a whole bunch of videos that I created using artists that were Paramount musicians, that were trending audios, that they're now muted. So if you go and watch some creators on TikTok, you'll watch the video and there's no sound, and that's because they had used a sound from Paramount that is no longer available on TikTok. So we're renting space on these platforms. The platforms can decide to change the rules and create new parameters for creation. And we as digital storytellers just have to navigate that space as best we can. So gathering resources, another aspect of that, besides the video, the photos, the equipment, is also where do I want to share the story? So the resource might be YouTube, it might be Instagram, it might be Facebook, it might be TikTok, it might be Snapchat. So figuring out, or it might be Pinterest if that's the space, or if we're a business or professional, we want to start looking at platforms like LinkedIn as well. And how are we telling our stories in those spaces as well? So another resource is where we are going to share that story out into the world. And whether it's just an image, whether it's a video or whatever that looks like. So where are we sharing the story? And then we start to decide another element of the resources is, how am I gonna create this? Am I just gonna edit everything in my phone, which is completely possible? I don't use another device, I use iPhone. So I know that I can edit videos within the photo app on my iPhone. There are free apps that you can download, like CapCut. I used to do a paid subscription to a video editing platform called Splice. And it's just ways to cut out, like, for example, when I was recording the yoga video and I had to hit record, walk over to my position, start the flow, walk back to the device and stop the recording. Well, the reason I was using the remote was because I didn't want that walking part. I just wanted to look like I was starting the flow right in that space. So I used Splice and I cut that walking part off the beginning and off the end. And so then it looked like I was just starting my video right there and I was ready to go, like I had a camera crew. And so editing software, there's other spaces like Canva is starting to be more video production friendly. It isn't great, but if you already are paying for Canva, that's actually a pretty a pretty good space to, you know, start to edit and create content for social media. And if you do have the paid version of Canva, they also have a scheduling platform. So you can schedule certain types of posts just to go out to your social media accounts. I've used it a few times. There are some limitations and it is improving all the time. But I just schedule things out on the apps themselves now. And so that's another resource that we can start to, you know, look at. You know, do we need to have a scheduling platform? Do we need to, you know, figure out a way to trickle out the content so that we don't physically have to be posting it every time it's time for it to be posted? So that's another resource. So the resources are everything involved with creating that digital story. But the main event, the main thing to focus on is, you know, what images, what visual assets do I need? What audio assets do I need? And do I need to invest in, or can I use the free versions of Canva or CapCut to create my videos or edit my photos? There's another app that I use called Snapseed that I use to edit my photos. It's fantastic. I just, it's basic video or photo editing. It isn't anything fancy, but I can do some touch-ups, like remove spots that need to be removed. It in no way is like amazing, like how I can do in Photoshop, but it still is a great free option when we just need to maybe do a filter or, you know, edit out certain aspects of our image. That's a great way to also add text to an image if we don't have resources like Canva or Photoshop or any of those other platforms where we can add text. So gathering resources, this is where we're going to bring everything together. And for the most part, for example, I just got back from a trip to California and I have a whole bunch of resources right here on my camera in my phone. So I just need to pull up some of the videos that I shot, some of the images that I took, and decide, like, how am I going to utilize this in my social media? What story am I going to tell with these videos or this image? Do I want to tell the story of my whole trip to California and give little segments of getting on the plane, getting my luggage, getting in the rental car, getting to the locations? You know, do I want to tell the story of the travel? Do I want to tell the story of the organization that I visited? You know, so then that's part of gathering the resources, is
you know, we come up with the idea and then we're like, okay, how am I gonna tell this based on the resources that I have? So knowing where you are with the resources, and then you can say, okay, I don't have a clip that represents this. So I need to go create it, or I need to find it on a platform that provides free stock photos or free stock videos. So gathering resources. Which, before we get into step 4, I want to just check in, because this is where we're gonna start putting everything together. I just want to check in with our Zoom folks to see if Savannah or Carla have any questions about gathering resources. Or Ronnie.
Roxanne,
Yes.
can you share where they would purchase, like the tripods that you were talking about, or the cameras, or the resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can do that a couple of ways. I can pull it up online, or I can shoot you an email that you can share out with all the links.
That would be great. I think it'd be nice to, I mean, especially since you went through with the tripods and everything, that you've basically done the due diligence of what works and what doesn't. It would be good to have ones that work.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's one that I absolutely love that I will, and that, yeah, just to ease the mind and close the loop, that's a great question. I will send Ronnie an email with links to the apps that I'm talking about, as well as the microphones and the tripod. So you're not just left to go find it for yourself. So if you've been diligently trying to write down what I'm saying, just know that there will be a resource list available to you. And you're also going to get this guide in a PDF form. So you have it to continuously go through. Any other questions? So it is right about 11:30. And I did want to offer a 30-minute break to grab some food or just to refresh, just to sit back and, you know, process everything that we talked about. I would like to start the break now before we jump into the final steps, only because the final steps are it's a whole process. We're bringing everything together and we're actually starting to create. And so let's do a 30-minute break to go, you know, grab some food, get whatever you need to fuel yourself. And then we'll come back at 12 o'clock and wrap up with the 4th step and any questions that anyone has. That way, when we finish, if we finish early, then we can be done and we don't have to worry about breaking up this last section. So if you want to stay in the Zoom, we're just going to stop the recording and you can keep yourself muted and keep the Zoom opened. But if you do have to shut down and check out, you know, just know that you'll have to re-access the Zoom space. It'll still be open, the meeting will still be here. We'll just all be muted and you will be muted as well. So we'll take 30 minutes. We'll be back here at 12 o'clock and get started in step 4. Thank you. You can just either raise your hand or pop a comment in the chat just to let me know that you are back in the Zoom space.
I'm back.
Okay, thanks, Carla. Awesome, Ronnie, thank you. Savannah. All right. Well, I'm hoping that Savannah's there. At some point, I would love to hear from Savannah. Don't have to, but either in the chat or just let me know that you're here with a thumbs up or a waved hand. Or just quickly flash your camera on. But as we're wrapping up and getting more into like the creation part of our digital storytelling, I just want to double check with everybody, both here in person and online. Any questions about what we've covered so far before we start diving into like putting it all together once we've gathered resources? How do we create the stories? If we don't have any questions in the room, or that either means that this is going fantastic and you guys are learning a lot, or everyone's completely confused. No, hopefully it's the first and everybody's learning a lot. All right, so the final step, so this kind of recaps, but it also adds in a few other elements. But when we're creating our stories, we're weaving together ideas, we're weaving together thoughts, and resources. And this is just another outline of putting it all together. Multitask. Okay, great. Thank you, Savannah. I'm just glad you're here. I just wanted to make sure that you were hearing us and good to go. All right, so in this resource, it also includes some other video editing platforms and other places where you might share your stories. But step one, again, just to recap, first we're coming up with ideas, we're planning our story, and creating that outline or your narrative, how you want to portray the story with a clear vision of what are you trying to tell. And another tip when we're telling our stories is we don't want to have too much information. We want to have at the most 3 points that we're trying to portray. If we start trying to tell our whole creation story from the beginning of time until the end of time, that can become too much for viewers. So we want to just make sure that when we are telling our stories, whether it's a short, quick TikTok video or we're doing a long 1 hour YouTube video. So just making sure that the points are clear, the purpose is clear, and it's easy for folks to highlight like what we were talking about and staying on track with about 3 main points. And then creating that storyboard, and how are we going to demonstrate or show those 3 main points. And then step 2 is we start to collect the visuals or the resources, if you will, your photos that you're going to use. And I love on here, it is showing a couple of free platforms where you can get images. Unsplash, UNSPLASH is a great platform. I've used them quite a bit, and I know that on my website platform, Unsplash is linked, so you can get free, copyright-free images to use to create your visuals, your digital story. And then I've never used Pixabay, but I hear it's another really great place to get resources, where you're not going to run into copyright infringement, or you don't have to pay to utilize those images. A lot of times you can also pay for platforms where you can get really high quality videos and images that are more in line with maybe what you want and are less general. And then also collect your video assets. So you either record your own or use royalty-free video clips from platforms like Pexels Video, or I can never pronounce that, Vidavo. But there are tons of platforms where you can get these assets. These are just a couple of examples. And then you wanna write out your script, like, what is it gonna look like? How are you going to tell the story, whether you're speaking or you're typing text over the video, whatever that looks like. So writing a script for what you'll say during your story, you wanna make sure to keep it concise and keep it engaging. And then determine whether you're going to speak or you're gonna use text overlays. And if you are going to use text overlays, what do you want the overlay to look like? Where is it going to appear on your images or your videos? How are you going to use it? Are you going to do captions? If you're doing a speaking video, you can use captions where it will just it'll show all the words that you're speaking, which is kind of a nice option. But you have to physically record the audio file, otherwise TikTok or Instagram, they don't pick up the transcription. And then recording any audio. So if you're doing voiceovers using your smartphone or a microphone to record any narration. Audacity is a free open source software that's great for recording and editing audio. If you are a Mac user, GarageBand is also a nice platform to, do some audio production. But it does require, there's more learning involved in that. And so finding really easy options for editing is beneficial. And then we want to start putting it together. This is where we're editing the story, we're weaving everything together. And I'm going to demonstrate this process in Canva. I'm going to show you a video edit, and I'm only going to use assets that are on the paid version of Canva. So none of the video that I'm using is uploaded or anything that I've created. So, and I'm using this avenue just to show and demonstrate that we can still create our digital stories, even if we're not using our phones to capture, even if we're not using our phones to create videos, we can still tell our story. And so I'm going to use Canva today, but there's also other tools like Adobe Spark is a user-friendly option for creating. It's similar to Canva. I find that Canva is a lot more user-friendly. I have a client, she swears by Adobe Spark, she loves it. I think it's more expensive, but again, it's preference. What do you like to use? And then video editing, there's so many options. I mentioned CapCut. If you have a Mac, you can use iMovie. I've used iMovie. It's pretty simple and straightforward, and it's a really good way to tell stories as well. I know they have if you want to just do like a short, they have templates that you can do like a movie trailer, if you will, and you can just put short clips into an already created storyboard. I love using that platform. And then another is Shotcut or DaVinci Resolve. These are free, a little bit more advanced video editing softwares. They work both on a Mac and or a Windows computer. And then of course you're getting into the more professional grade video editing, which is Adobe Premiere, which Rush, I've not used Rush, but it's apparently a more user-friendly version of Premiere Pro, but it's really good for beginners. Premiere Pro is again, it's a professional level video editing platform, but I've used it. I started using Premiere when it was still, we had to render videos and then burn them onto a DVD or record them onto VHS tapes. So it has evolved so much since then. So then we want to select music and any sound effects that we're going to incorporate. So one last video editing platform I do want to mention, which is one that I just recently started using, and you can download it to your PC or your Mac, or I do a monthly subscription on my iPad, and it's called CapCut. I always forget what it's called, but Final Cut Pro, sorry, yes, Final Cut Pro. And it's amazing. I've been enjoying it a ton. The only downside is, just like many video editing platforms that you might use on your mobile device or your phone, the videos and everything that I use to create in Final Cut Pro, I have to have enough storage on my iPad in order to create the videos. So I can't edit it off of a hard drive. So everything has to be on my iPad, which can be limiting if you don't have a lot of space on your iPad. But that is a paid option. And so then adding music or sound effects, and I brought up Final Cut Pro because this is where you can also add music and sound effects in that application. There are free music archives. YouTube has an audio library that's all royalty free. So if you're ever in question as to whether or not this would be a royalty free sound, you can always go to the YouTube audio library and see if it is available. But do our best to find free music and sound effects to enhance the story. But we want to make sure that they are cleared for use for your type of project. So there are paid platforms where you can purchase audio files, but you want to make sure that the use agreement is available for the type of use that you would like it for. If you're in some cases, if you're creating a commercial that's going to go out into the world, there is another use permit that you have to pay for, and it's generally more expensive. But if you're using it for just social media or just putting stuff out there, generally speaking, it's a different price. And then so the next step is then we start to put the story together. We take the videos, the images, the software that we're going to use, and we start to put all the audio narration, any text overlays, any background music, adjust the timing and transitions to make the story flow smoothly. And again, I'm going to show you a little bit of this in Canva. And then we share our story. This is where we get to decide which social media platforms we want to leverage for our organization or our businesses. And how do we decide this? This is where we have to do some of that investigation, like where are my target customers? Where's my target audience? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? I should have adjusted this. Is it X? Is that what it's called now? Twitter is no longer Twitter, it's X. And then, of course, then there's TikTok and platforms like that. But don't, I would wait, if you haven't gone on TikTok already, I would wait to see what happens with TikTok, because in a couple months, TikTok is either going to be banned in the US, so we won't have access to it anymore, or a US company is going to acquire it, and then we will still be able to use TikTok. Well, I would wait to see how that unfolds before you invest a ton of time in TikTok. So then looking at video sharing platforms like YouTube or Vimeo, if you're doing long storytelling, YouTube or Vimeo are great for this type of storytelling strategy. I use it right now. I record my yoga classes and I upload them to my YouTube channel, and I make them private. So only my YouTube or my yoga students can access those videos. And then I categorize them by the different series that the video comes from. So this way, when my students go to look for those videos, they are able to find them by category, or they can, access them through another avenue. But they're categorized and they're labeled based on the series that they were attending. Which is great. Like, once you start sharing a lot of different videos on these types of platforms, having them categorized can be really, really helpful moving forward. And then there's also blogging platforms like WordPress, Medium, or Blogger, which allows you to create a post where you can embed your video and then also provide additional context or resources. So blogging platforms are another great avenue. Digital storytelling can also be translated into maybe a podcast.
if you wanted to start a podcast, which is becoming more popular than blogging. Blogging used to be the big, like, this is what everyone needs to do, but a lot more people are starting podcasts and, you know, having really great success with those platforms as well. So when we think about, you know, how to be successful, some tips for success, you know, we want to make sure we keep the content engaging. So how do we do this? One, we have to know who our target customer is, who our target audience is, who is going to be consuming this message. Now, if we're going on, so if you're not on TikTok, maybe this won't resonate. But on TikTok, there's different consumers. There's the consumers that are going to watch a 5 to 15 minute long video because it's basically education. And there is a ton of creators out there that are getting on and they're talking for 5 to 15 minutes. And I honestly never thought I would be a consumer of that content until I started to engage with some really, really good creators that are putting out amazing knowledge. So I will go and watch their long form videos on TikTok. However, I started out as a consumer on TikTok. I wanted the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, get the message out, and then I move on. I was like, if you don't catch my attention in the first 3 seconds, I'm continuing to scroll. And that's a majority of the users on TikTok. They're scrolling, waiting for something to catch their attention. And so if that is our target, how are we going to capture attention within the first 3 seconds? Within the first, because that's basically how much time you have. It used to be 7 seconds. So we need to get them engaged and captivated as quickly as possible. Unless it's an audience that's invested in your message. I follow another person on TikTok. He takes forever to get to his point, but I know based on historical viewing that when he does get to his point, it's really, really good. But he built that relationship through creating videos that captured my attention in the beginning. And now I continue to watch because I know that the end result of watching the whole video, I'm going to get a lot of benefit. So understanding our audience and how we're going to connect, and it is so important. And it never hurts to have a really compelling opening statement and then go into like get them with a hook and then deliver the long form message. Practice digital literacy, which is basically understanding the basics of copyright law to ensure that you're using images, videos, and music legally. So if you're using platforms like Canva or other creating platforms that offer royalty-free images and or sound, generally speaking, that stuff is available, but you always want to, I hate reading the agreements that we click to agree to use a platform, but it's important because especially when you're looking at video editing platforms to know like this is available for you to use for commercial use, or you can only use this for personal use. So understanding that is really important. So that's just digital literacy. I never thought it would be a thing, but it is, and it has been for a while now. But and also get feedback before sharing out to the world. Get feedback from a small group of people. Use our input to make any necessary adjustments. Now, these would be content that you're creating that you're going to maybe invest into promote out into the world. And so you really want to make sure that if you're going to spend $1,000 or more to push a campaign, then you are going to want to get good feedback so that you make sure that your money, your funds are being utilized in the right way. So you can create digital stories that share your message effectively and resonate with your audience if you follow those steps. So that is the end of this workbook.
So now what I want to do though is I started a couple of templates. And let me see if, which one is which. Okay, we're gonna go over to this one. Because I'm gonna tell a digital story of selecting your horse. And so I'm gonna ask for a little bit of guidance. But I thought it would be great to open it up with a sea of horses. So what I did, I'm gonna take you from beginning to end. So I started on the homepage, and just so everyone is clear, I'm in the paid version of Canva. So some of the Canva is an amazing platform to use, even in the unpaid version. But when you're in the paid version, see the little crown right here by this brand? This indicates that if you don't have the paid version, you don't have access to it. Just to be clear. So what I did is I went to template, or actually I went to home. So this is what it looks like. And this is another thing that I really appreciate is I can pick up here from this menu. Like if I want to create a document, a whiteboard, presentation, a social media post, or if I want to create videos or creating print products, or I'm designing a website. So let's say I want to create a print product. So you can have different options down here to create those products. I think I designed a couple of things here, and then you can order them through Canva. The other area is documents. So you can, let's say, we want to create a document, so we click on it. And this is just a quick broad brushstroke of some of the options in Canva. So this is a document, so you can add elements, you can do different things. You can look for different templates. So let's say maybe you're writing a resume, so you want a resume template, so you can click on this and then select. And then it populates, and then you just add your own details in here, so that you can just edit all of these elements. But we're not going to live in this document space because I want to go here to videos. The other option is to go to social media, but because I'm specifically creating a video, you can see that it gives you options down here once I click on video. I can create a mobile video, a Facebook video, an Instagram reel, and a TikTok. Now, if you remembered, if you've been creating content on social media for a while, you may remember the days of trying to create a Facebook post, and then you create this beautifully designed product, and then you put it on Facebook post, and then like half the words are cut off or half the image is cut off because you didn't have the right dimensions. This is where Canva really like led the pack, is they just created templates that already had the dimensions. So you can pick here, and let's say we're going to do an Instagram reel. So when you click on it, it opens up to a template that is already formatted for the dimensions of an Instagram reel. So you don't have to type in, I need it to be a 16:4 ratio or whatever those dimensions might be. So that's like one of the things that Canva, when it originally started, that was what got a lot of people attracted to it. Was that, oh my gosh, I don't have to remember what size my Facebook banner thing has to be, because I can just type in Facebook banner and it pops up to be the exact dimensions that it needed to be. So here is a Instagram reel template. So what we could do up here is we could rename it to, let's say, my horse story. All right, so we don't have any assets. I haven't taken any videos, I don't have any photos, I don't have anything. So I'm gonna come over here to elements because I need some stuff to put in here. And I'm just gonna type in horse training video. I'm just gonna say video and hit enter and see what comes up. Okay, so we have some graphics, we have some photos, and there's even some audio files. So we might want to explore those a little bit. But what we want to focus on are these videos. So I'm just going to click see all. And then it's just going to populate with videos. So I can hold my cursor over a video and you can see it's playing. And we have a little bit of a lag only because we're sharing this via Zoom. So I can hold over this one. But anyway, it gives you a little bit of a preview of what the video is. But there was one that I really liked. And again, this one might be. So I want to show you something though, because so I'm going to select this one, and you can see that it is. Remember when I was talking about the angle of your camera, whether you're shooting in portrait mode, straight up and down, or landscape mode, going long ways. So all of these videos that you're seeing right now on the screen, these are all landscape mode. So if I pop this one, which is landscape, into my template, look at that. It's like, it doesn't fit. So, well, what do we do? So you have a couple of options. I'm going to right click on the image and it's going to open up a drop down menu. So I can copy, paste, duplicate, align to page. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set video as background. And then it resizes it, but you can see it cut a lot out. But now it fits into this template. Otherwise, I'm going to undo that. Otherwise, what I have to do is go in and drag this until it fits. And again, everything is a little bit slower, so I apologize, only because it's on Zoom. But now, and so this is fine, but now, and then I can like position it to where maybe I want it to go. Let's say there, and then play. And so that's what you would see. Or I could do that right click, set video as background. And you don't get the options to like frame it necessarily because it just automatically frames it for you. Okay, so that's one thing. I'm just gonna hit delete, maybe. This is what happens when you put a Mac user on a normal person keyboard. I'm gonna just hit delete video. And I'm gonna look for one that is portrait, which they might not have any for horse videos, but we'll see. Okay, I don't want to get too granular and get focused on that. So I'm just going to go down to the video that I originally selected, which is this one right here. Because we're telling the story of why we pick, and so this one will actually translate pretty well. So right clicking, I'm going to set video as background. So this one actually, when it's the way that this one was shot, where the action is in the center, this translates really well. So I don't want it to be 17 seconds long. So I'm just going to come down here to this timeline and I'm going to shrink it. So I clicked on it. You can see it's purple now. And I'm just going to drag to shorten it. I want it to be says 6-ish, 7 seconds long. Okay, so now I've clicked off it so you can see that the video is no longer highlighted but if I click on it, then the video is highlighted, and that's when these adjustment tools come into play. So this is another way to cut and trim your video, is I could cut it from this side. Maybe I don't want the beginning, so I could cut it that way, or I could cut it from the end. So it just depends on what part of the video you want to keep is how you would use that. And then this little arrow right here, you can see where my cursor's at. I can pull that along and it will play the video. So that's just playing. So I can go to wherever I need it to be. So now I want to add another clip. So to continue the story, because right now, like the way that I'm visualizing the story is I needed to pick the horse that I wanted to train. And in a sea of horses and possibilities, let's say, I'm just gonna, again, just an example. There we go. So I'm gonna set it as the background. See how it looks. And so then the next line would be, there's always one that stands out. I'm gonna shrink this down because I want it to be, and maybe, so really like that part. All right. And then we're gonna add another video. And then we might say, we might use this one because this looks like it's a part of the series. And this is only just to tell the story, right? In real life, we probably would have taken photos or videos of this experience with our horse. And so one thing that I do like is, so let's say we actually want this, not moving. There we go. Oh, now it went off the screen. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna set video as background. So you can see it's like that starts with this horse hindsight part of the video. So maybe I don't want it to start right there. Maybe, so I'm gonna scroll through and see if there's a better starting point. But there's not, so I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna undo. All right. So I'm gonna just resize this one. Because I want to be able to select that it starts here in the screen. And so again, there's so many ways to approach this. And some things you're gonna, and I share like oh, that didn't work. Because sometimes we get intimidated by, I should be able to just get in here and edit this video and it should be perfect the first time. But when we're creating, sometimes you try something and it just doesn't work. So let's say this is the video. So now I'm gonna add, so I can look down here, it's 14 seconds long. I don't know if I need it to be much longer than that, just for our purposes today. Okay, so again, working in Canva, there's other platforms to do this in. Canva is not a video editing platform, it is testing. So not everything here is going to be perfect. So now I'm going to go over here to this menu on the left-hand side. You can see it says design, text, brand, uploads. I'm going to go to text. And here, so I've already programmed in my own brand kit, so it just automatically populates my brand fonts. But you can go down and you can pick stuff from here, or because I've already branded it, I'm gonna just click heading because I'm gonna create a heading. I want it to be bigger. Those can go giant, so. EICKIM, right. Horse to train. And see. Options. Okay. So. From a design perspective, this does not look that great. So this is where we can do other things. So I'm gonna click on, I'm gonna click effects. So with the text, I can make it look neon. I can make it have some different colors, and I can come down here and I can adjust so that it's my brand colors if I wanted to. We can adjust like the direction of the way that the color's going. Anyway, so we're not gonna do that one. So I'm just not gonna spend too much time on it. So we're just clicking through which one feels like it's standing out from the background. So I'm gonna go here and look, oh, my bright colors are programmed in. So let's see, what does this look like? Oh, that doesn't look too bad. Or maybe it looks like red. I don't know, maybe red would look good. It does not. Maybe this lighter blue, maybe this one. So I'm between this one and the dark color, but I'm gonna stick with this one. So that stands out way more than the other text. I'd probably change this font to something different. That fits more with what we're working with here. Who knows? Some, you know, you can always go through and play around and see which one fits better. But another option, I'm gonna go back to this one here. Another option is to go back to elements and then pick a square. Or rectangle. I'm gonna put it behind text. And then I'm gonna come over to the transparency. I add them all over the place. So I'm gonna, it's not showing, so it's over here. This is another good thing. If you don't see a tool that you want to use up here, these 3 dots will give you more. So what I'm looking for is this transparency. So I want to adjust the transparency of that background because I don't want it to be so obvious. So there we go. So you just pick what feels right just to help it pop out a little bit more. The other thing you can do is you, like maybe you don't like that gray color, you can come over here to color. And this is gonna change the color of that box that's behind the text. And that gray color actually looks pretty good. Just keep that as it is. So there we go. So picking the right horse in a horse to train in a sea of options. I probably want to add in here. I would probably pick a different hook, like the challenge of picking a horse to work with when there's so many options, or my 3 steps to deciding on the right horse to decide to train, or something that is going to give more structure. Again, I'm just weighing this. So you, as you're developing your stories, you'll figure out. So I'm going to add some text over this one. We're going to add a heading. And I'm going to say 3 things to do. So you can see how this text got all like wide. So you have some options. You can either just go in and hit enter, then it stacks, or the other option is to come here to this edge and pull it together. Pull it together. And then you can move it around to wherever you want it to be. You can go back into effects and add the effects, change the color. You know, and I just want to also point out that when you do choose effects, you want to try to stay consistent throughout. So you don't want to have like 8 different text effects, so keep the text effect pretty consistent. So I'm just going to make this bigger. 3 things to look for when selecting a barrel horse. And then you can start to like put them out here. And then we'll put this here. And thing 1. And then you explain it. And then thing 2. And then you explain it. Thing 3. And then you explain it. So imagine that's beautiful and in line with the other text that we put into the video. So now we can go ahead and let's just play it to see what it looks like. And then you could have a fine, okay, that's not terrible. I mean, it's a little leggy only because again, we are on Canva. And we're on a Zoom, so just keep that in mind. So we could go back to elements and let's see, oh, sorry. Let's go to horse. Barrel horse. Let's see what comes up. I might be spelling barrel wrong. So maybe we just want a photo. Let's check these out. Maybe we want to end with a photo and see what they look like. All right, which one looks like it represents fast? So that's the other element of selecting our resources when we're gathering resources is I could pick any one of these photos. They all represent barrel racing. But I specific, because part of your story, your narrative was you want them to go fast. I like fast horses. So, you know, which one here feels fast? Because like this one, this is great, but honestly, it feels like, kind of. This one, maybe the hair is flying, but this one, I don't know, this one kind of feels fast. What do you think? Maybe this one? This one? All right, I'll pick. Because her hair is crazy. And so I'm just gonna see because this is fast, setting it as the background, that looks like someone's falling over. So no. So what I might do is just, you could also create a collage of fast horses. And And so another thing that we can do is we can position, like, I don't want this photo to be on top of this photo. So what we can do is go up here to position and then move it to the back. So now that photo is behind this one, which made space for both to be here. So let's say this looks beautifully put together. And then we're going to add another text overlay that says, like, for more information on selecting the right course. Follow me. I mean, this is a very unfinessed call to action. Again, I'm just shooting from the hip. But, or you could say, you know, check out check out the next video where I show you all the ways to select your perfect horse. Or whatever it is that you would like to incorporate. Like so this is called your call to action. Sorry, my brain, as I'm multitasking, my brain is like, ah. So what is the call to action that you would like people to do after watching this video about the ways to select a horse? The three things to look for. So what would their next steps be? So that's great. Thank you so much for that great information. People, people want to close the loop. So what would the next step be? What do you want them to do? You know, it used to be, there was a time when click the link in my bio for more information. That time has passed. Now it could be for more information on selecting the right horse for you. Comment barrel or horse below to receive my my 10-step guide. And maybe you have a pre-created guide that folks can download. And so they comment barrel horse or whatever it is. And then once they comment it, you direct message them in messaging the link to download your guide. And then you're starting to do another element in creating your business growth is collecting email addresses. As wonderful as it is to get a ton of followers on social media, a ton of interaction, your most valuable asset as a business owner or to running an organization is your email list. Because your email list is where you can continue, where people have given you permission to reach out to them and share your messaging. So collect those email addresses, find ways to do that. And this is a beautiful way to do it because these are invested folks. If they are like, yes, please send me all the information you can about what you have to offer. They're already attracted to your hook. So, you know, now is where we can start to develop a relationship and get them to become raving fans. And every time we release new content or we release a new program, we can, let's see, we're gonna add some audio. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Woo, that was loud. So let's say, okay, we're gonna add this just because it's there and it's easy. So now we have an audio file down here. So let's see what the video looks like with the audio. I'm kind of scared.
Okay, it makes a difference, there's a lot of you. What's going on? So great that you are so in the thought like you.
Okay, so there's tons of other audio files that you could add. I have never tried to do a voiceover on Canva. I do a lot of voiceovers in some of my other videos. And you can see there's some other options here. beat sync is where the video, it'll start to sync the transitions to the beat of the music. Sometimes that's great, sometimes you don't really need it. You can adjust the audio, you can add audio effects. So there's tons of options. This took a lot longer than what would normally happen. But we were kind of creating the story as we went, and we didn't have all of our resources gathered. We were kind of doing all the steps together, clumped together, to tell the story of how to select the 3 barrel horses. Or the 3 steps to selecting the horse that you want to work with. But this could be so many different versions that you use when you're creating your content. And this was all stuff we didn't have to get a camera out. We didn't have to get a microphone out. We didn't have to do anything. This was all free videos and photos that already live out in the internet world that are available for us to use for free to tell our story. So I share this version of it because I don't want anyone to ever feel like, well, I don't have any videos, I don't have things. Coming back to Carla's working with the Grange, there we run into probably want to have actual photos and video of the Grange. You can't just use stock images. However, you might be able to use some stock footage that kind of sort of looks like the space, or is like, theoretically, this is what we're hoping the space is going to look like or evolve into. So, when you're talking actual space and place, you probably want to use videos or photos that you've created or someone else has created. But, sometimes telling a story about an event, you don't necessarily need the actual footage of the event at the venue. Better is to have footage at the venue, but if you don't have it, how could you, I'm just gonna do this on this, let's search up wedding. We already see reception video. So we want videos. So like these, for example, these are tight shots that aren't necessarily showing the full venue. It's just showing a table setup. And so when you're looking when you're looking at like this one where it has like that background, that's loosely interpreted. Someone could maybe set up the Grange Hall to look like that. So maybe that is at the Grange. So you see where you can still, I share this example, so we can still see the availability of free media to tell our stories. So when we're looking at something like the chandelier, that's beautiful, but most likely that doesn't exist in the Grange unless you have it available to rent for your special events. Then yeah, that would be a great shot, but you get the idea. So, if there's anything like where there's really discerning features in the background, like this window and that wall, those are pretty distinctive, and someone might be like, that's not at the Grange, that doesn't even look like the Grange. But things that are, a little bit tighter shots, like flowers or table setups, things that could be interpreted in any space, those ones would be available to use. And we typed in wedding reception, but what if we said high school, oops, sorry. We could type in, what's another event? EMD. Is that right?
The high school prom.
Yeah, we could do high school by typing. EDM. EMD. I don't know. But so again, if you're looking at video, seeing here, what could be, what could translate to any space, right? EDM. Right, EDM.
This is really interesting. I've used Canva for flyers, but I've never touched the videos.
So I just typed in EDM concert and, some videos came up. So if you were thinking about doing that, hiring that DJ for one of these events, you could pull some of this footage to, just to give the vibe of what event is coming. So yeah, no, Canva has really expanded its options in the last couple of years. And aside from just doing posters and flyers and just stationary social media posts, they've added this element of video, which is pretty new. So it's a little bit clunky, but as it starts to probably develop out, it's going to get even more user friendly. So that is, so just before I close down, are there any questions, any clarifications?
Nope, I'm good. Time to play with it now.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop the screen share. And just do a quick check-in with y'all in the room. Anyone in Zoom?
I'm ready for the next step.
Awesome. So the next step is, downloading the video, downloading the imagery, and then sharing it out to your platforms, to your social media platforms, or to your website, wherever the content is going to live and be consumed by your viewers. So whether, and that comes with understanding, who your target audience is, what platform is going to serve you the best. I believe the next session is the 5 Ps of marketing, which is where we're going to get really clear, like help develop that clarity. Who's my target audience? What am I offering? And really defining what is my experience that I'm delivering to my potential customers or clients, and where do they buy from me? Where are they going to register? Where are they going to consume my content? So that's place. And so we'll take a deep dive into all of those aspects. How much do I charge? Maybe there's no fee. Maybe it's an exchange of goods for goods, or whatever that looks like. We define that out. And then so when we're talking place is when we're going to really figure out like what platform will serve me best for the specific person I'm trying to attract to my business. That's all I have for digital storytelling. That was like a really in-depth digital storytelling strategy. But if you even just take the highlights, the basic, come up with an idea, come up with how I'm going to tell the story. And, the number one thing to take away is when you're putting your story out there, ask yourself, what's the purpose of this? What's the purpose of this post? What's the purpose of this story? And if you can't define the purpose, it's time to go back to the drawing board. Because if you don't know what the purpose is, then your viewer isn't going to know either. And, whenever I post, I'm like, what's the purpose? Well, it's just to share some experiences, or it's to share knowledge, or to entertain. Whatever the purpose is. If you can't say the purpose is to get people to sign up for my email list, or to let people know that I have a new program starting, or we're remodeling the building, or we have an event coming up. We want to be able to define that. And then we look at it and say, okay, is this serving that purpose? If not, we go back to the drawing. So purpose, purpose, purpose.
Well, thank you, Roxanne, for hosting this training today and for providing us with this great information. I think everybody's gonna take be going back and playing with Canva, doing videos, and hopefully putting together our first digital storytelling whether it's for an event or for our businesses. I think this was extremely helpful. For everybody who has joined us, Roxanne will be sending me that information on the devices and the different tools that you can use in order to best do this work. And we'll also be sending you all of the PowerPoint and her presentation and then that guide. And I would encourage everybody to sign up. This is the first part in a series, and so we do have other trainings that will be available. And if you haven't already signed up, please do so, and you can find those on our economic-alliance.com/events. You can find the information on how to register there. So again, thank you all for being in attendance today.